Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Polyhedron Collider Cast episode 35.
Yes, sure this
35.
time, Steve?
I'm
not 34
sure.
or 33 again.
Yeah, I thought it was 33A, B, C, D. There's an alphabet in there, wasn't there?
There is indeed, yeah. And then there's the alphanumerics, there's the symbols. Maybe we should get a better editor.
Maybe we should just call it 36.
It's definitely 35. The last episode was definitely episode 34.
Was it? Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. If you look back at your feed now and the website, no doubt you will find it says 34.
Doesn't say on my website, Steve.
I'm going to fix this after I finish recording.
Yes, I know this. And I'm ruining the magic for you.
Stop breaking the fourth wall. That's my job.
Anyway, I'm Steve.
I'm Andy.
And I'm John.
And he's on the right microphone this week.
I'm on the I can't speak, though. I'm on the right microphone settings.
He's on the right microphone, and he's been on the gin.
Oh,
and he's
grief.
pressed the record button. He has pressed the record button, right?
Yes, I have. It's fine.
One of these days, we're going to forget, all three of us are going to forget to record.
And on that day, the internet will rejoice.
So, it is currently the end of 2017, or we're fast approaching the end of 2017. We're recording this mid-December, but by the time I finish editing this,
It'll be
it
January.
will be January. Yes.
2019.
Well, if you didn't make it so difficult for me to edit, then
I don't much.
A bit.
It's not my fault you've chosen to air horn me.
Actually, the air horns are quite funny. I like them.
Yeah.
It was a good choice of air horn, I'd say, Steve.
well, it was either that or a cow mooing I was going to put in.
Oh.
No, the air horn's definitely a better bet.
So, as I was saying, we're approaching the end of the year, so it is time for our annual look back episode. I think this time last year we called the episode The Best Games of 2016, and I've taken a little bit of a tactical manoeuvring here, and this episode is going to be the best games we've played in 2017. The reason for that being is it's getting really, really difficult to actually play everything in a year, even if you just pick the best games of the year.
Which is a good thing, because it means there are so many games out there.
Yes. It means that there's hundreds of games and we are missing out on thousands of them. To give an example, like Fantasy Flight Games released 4 games this week.
Did they?
That's pretty good going.
The Legends of Dragonholt, the Fallout board game, Battle of Rogue...
Gesundheit.
Sorry, say that again, Steve. What was that?
No, I don't want to say it again.
You didn't say it the first time.
No, I say it perfectly. Obviously, your headphones must have just malfunctioned for a brief moment.
Yes, that's what it'll be.
Probably
yes.
going. Bit of dust in there. Just blow in your phone and get the dust out. Be fine.
My phone?
Well, if you're listening to this on a podcast on your phone, I'm speaking on behalf of the listener.
Just move on, Steve. He won't notice.
Would you like the keys to the JCB that you know, to get you out of this hole? It's just outside. I've got it for moving the snow off my drive.
I guess that's one good thing about all the snow, is it gives us an excuse not to go outside. We can just hole ourselves up and podcast away.
That's true. And yet we didn't.
No, none of us did we?
No.
Did any of you play any... Right, with the snow, did any of you play any board games?
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
sort of.
John, whoa. John played a board game.
Whoa,
Hang on,
whoa.
stop.
Holy
We need
shit.
some theme music for this. Hang on. All right. Theme music is now playing.
I can't hear any theme music. What are you on about?
Turn it up.
Quite you and your fourth wall breaking idiocy.
Oops. So I say I played some board games. I struggled to play some board games, but in my defence, I was fairly shit-faced.
Oh, this.
Oh God, yes.
So if you look at
The simplest game.
You are a cretin, Mr. Cage. An absolute cretin. How could you fail to look at a picture and replicate its contents?
Let me explain.
You are supposed to be the leader of a software team. Supposed to be. And yet you can't build a 6-sided face when the answer is in front of you.
So, in my defence...
There is
as
no
I
defence.
So
won't
anyway,
bother
we should explain to the listeners what happened. So I got a message. I think I was watching a film at the time, which is why it took me a couple of hours to reply to you. But I got a message saying, "How do you set up the dice on Dice Forge?" And I kind of went back and went, "We just do what it says on the picture." And then the reply comes back, but it only shows you 3 faces.
It
and
does.
At this point, I had to go upstairs and get the rules out myself and look at it and go, no, I can quite blatantly see 6 faces there.
You can see 6 faces, but 3 of them have their backs to you, okay? And they just look like yellow blobs when the lighting isn't particularly good in the room that you're playing in. And you've had, I don't know how much we'd had by that point, but it was a lot of booze. Many bottles of wine, several gin and tonics. It was a good evening, but I think we chose the wrong time to pick up a game that I'd never set up before. In fact, to be fair, I'd only actually played it like once before. So, my defense, and I'm sticking to it, is that I was drunk. It was dark. And to be fair, I was the most experienced board game player there, which doesn't really say a lot, so...
Since we were talking about Dice Forge, I think we should move on quite quickly to our first event. Now, this is a new award we've come up with. I think we mentioned it on the last podcast.
Do we need to put the bullseye music on again?
Cue the music.
No, I can't put the bullseye music on because this should now be on Spotify, and Spotify are very particular about music, apparently.
Oh, no. Are you going to get another cease and desist letter?
Possibly. We'll see. Oh, no, they probably just won't allow me to distribute via Spotify, but we'll soon see. Anyway, we have come up with the new award system for 2017, the Polyhedron Collider 3 for 3 awards.
Dun, 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 dun.
He's not finishing it.
He's done that on purpose, isn't he?
He has. It's actually, the inside of my ears is itching now to hear the last 2 notes. God damn it.
Did your brain just not go?
Dun dun.
And everyone who's listening as well.
Yeah. So the idea of this award is to basically say that the games we like are the games where all 3 of us are liked. So a 3 for 3 award is a game that each of us own. And so we said it 2017 because these are the games that all 3 of us have bought this year. And it's not actually a big list. I was expecting it to be a little bit bigger than this.
That's probably my fault, really, because I haven't actually bought that many games this year. Sort of been a bit preoccupied with this stupid work stuff. It's an awful excuse, I know. I'll get better, I promise.
Me and Andy are both busy with work, and that just means we buy more board games.
Exactly. Any excuse not to do
Stress
work.
relief.
Yes. And by work, you mean discussing board games.
Well, yeah.
Yeah.
We just happen to discuss Polyhedron Collider in a different office. That's what happens.
Yes, okay.
Yeah, someone else's office.
Exactly.
While being paid by someone
Yeah.
else.
It sounds
See,
ideal.
we've got this outsourcing absolutely spot on.
Yeah, okay, I've been doing
Outsourcing
it wrong.
costs somewhere else.
So the first game on the list is, we've just mentioned it, Dice Forge.
It is.
It's a great game.
And I think I was the last of the 3 to buy this, which is unusual.
With your acquisition disorder, yeah.
Exactly. I think there was only like about a week in it, but, still.
But it's amazing that you got it within a week of each other. I thought that was really weird when one of you said, oh, I've just bought Dice Forge, and the other one said, oh, I've just bought it as well. Oh, right. Okay.
Independently, both realised that we had to have a copy.
Yeah.
It is quite good, though.
Well, yeah, it is. And what's nice about it is it's just deep enough. So it's not too shallow a game. It's light enough a game that you can basically play this with almost anyone. But at the same time, there's enough options in there. There's enough little strategies in there that you don't feel like you're just playing like my first board game, like a kiddie's introduction game.
It's true.
Yeah,
Yes.
I agree.
Yeah.
If you can set the damn thing up. I'll do better next time, I promise.
For those of us with a mental capacity larger than a grape, it's quite straightforward.
With proper lighting and less booze.
I was really worried at first it was just going to be a gimmick, this idea that you can change the dice face. Although the game is largely a take on the deck building aspect, and it's a kind of base level deck building, it isn't like those games that go more complicated with it, it still ends up being a good game for it.
There's some nice options.
Yeah.
Because you do have to think about, some of the dice faces you get affect the other die.
Yes.
So you've got to be really choosy, like the 3 times multiplier, or, you can pick somebody else's die face. You've got to think about which die face you put on which die, because you can't score twice on the same die. So you got 3 times multiplier. Do you want to multiply up your money or your rubies or your blue, whatever the hell that is, or anything like that? So there is a little bit to, obviously, as soon as you put a really good die face on that die, that die face will never, ever, ever come out ever again. Never. Doesn't happen. It's like, this is the die face that guarantees never to come out again. Bang. And you're going to get 1 gold for the rest of the game.
I'm sure the plastic that's used to make the additional die faces is slightly heavier than the ones that come on the starter ones. So it always falls to the bottom every time.
Yes.
I think it's one of those games that has a lot of, oh, I should have done it like that type moments.
2 turns ago. Yeah.
Yes.
Like,
exactly.
I'm pretty sure everyone, the first time they play it, when they see that there's gold and you get to buy things, assumes that you're going to need more gold. And so they try and put more gold faces on it. And then about 2/3 of the way, or maybe even halfway through the game, you have that moment where you go, shit, I've got all the gold in the world, but it's not going to do me any
blue
good. I
and
can't
red
actually,
to buy any cards.
that's right, I can't actually do anything with it.
Yeah,
and now I'm just going to throw half of it away.
Oh, the 6 gold. That's a great one. No.
No.
Not as good as it looks. Good to start with, but once you've rolled that once or twice, but as we've already established, never comes out. No point.
I rolled it a lot.
Nah.
I had way too much gold and couldn't do anything with it.
Yeah. It's surprisingly good. And you can get through it if you don't piss about too much in about half an hour.
Yeah.
Providing you can read the instructions.
Yes.
All right.
It's a shame we can't mention this game again during the episode, otherwise we could just wind you up with it all day.
I don't
Next
see
on
why
the
we
list.
can't do that.
So that was Dice Forge.
Oh, before we move on, I should also point out that it also should win the Andy's Packaging Choice Award for it having basically the best insert ever made.
Ever made?
Well, thus far that I have discovered.
The best insert 2017.
Possibly even before then.
Mechs versus Minions.
Mechs versus Minions is going to give that a run for its money.
Oh, yeah, you've got a good point. Yeah, I'll give you that one.
Yeah.
It's certainly no FFG Trench, let's put it that way.
No, it's not.
How do you manage to make that sound so disgusting?
It's me. I said it.
I think that's a fair point.
It can make any word disgusting.
Yeah, okay.
So speaking of FFG trenches,
Ooh,
the
that was
next
a
game that we've
nice
all
segue.
purchased. It was. I'm rather chuffed with that one.
That was smoother than George Clooney on a belt sander, that was.
Until you went and pointed it all out and ruined the moment.
So the next game that we've all purchased, with me and Andy purchased this last year, but John purchased it this year, which is Mansions of Madness.
Second
Love it.
edition.
Absolutely love it.
Second edition, yes, not first edition,
No,
Yep.
no. For the pedants out there.
of which there are many.
Although, to be fair, I bought first and second edition at the same time.
Yeah, because you've got ridiculous acquisition disorder.
Yes, that is true, and I'm a completionist,
Yes.
which means, ooh, expansions.
So, yeah, this is the app-driven, would you call it a dungeon crawler? App-driven Lovecraftian
House
adventure
crawler.
game.
Investigation.
Investigation game.
Yes. Button pokey
But
game.
pokey game.
You do your poke buttons on the screen, don't you?
A point and shift.
Ooh, I like that.
Now we've just had our time to adjust to it a bit. Do you think the criticisms that were first levelled of it about it being an app game that you can play with a board game, or do you agree that it's worked well? It is both a board game and an app.
The latter. I think it works really well.
You need both of them there to make it what it is.
There are a couple of criticisms we can throw at it.
Yeah,
It's not perfect.
because this was our game of the year last year, wasn't it?
Yes.
And I think we covered most of those criticisms then. But on the whole, I think it's one of those games that when a new adventure comes out, I'm really keen to get it to the table. A bit like Time Stories in that regard. When something new comes out for it, and it's drip feeding out new adventures, new expansions. I'm really
Like
keen to give those another go.
Streets of Arkham, which I may or may not have bought today. The most recent expansion, which was 50 quid. It's outrageous.
But our RP was 60 quid.
That is insane for a small expansion.
£60 for expansion.
Because the
Is it a
first
small
expansion was
expansion?
half that.
That's pretty bonkers.
I know, because it's not that big. It's not as if you buy... I mean, the RRP for the base game's, what, 94?
Yeah.
You're paying 2/3 of the price for about 10% of the content. That is insane. But you do get 3 new missions, though,
Okay.
which is not bad. And there are some pretty hefty miniatures in there, so
That doesn't sound that bad then. You're paying more for the content then.
it's just... I think it's probably should be closer to 40 quid, to be honest, but...
Yeah, okay.
But I know we keep on saying the podcast games have gone up, but I feel as if games went up this week.
Yes, again.
Yeah.
It's all that Brexit nonsense.
Yes, we'll just blame that. But I mean, it is really good. I mean, they still. I think the criticisms we levied at it 12 months ago are still present. You know, like you can't put in somebody's stats when you're doing the puzzle, and there is still a lot of faff when you're trying to dig out the right tile and get the right minis to put on the board. That kind of breaks the flow a little bit. Which
gets a little bit worse the more you buy expansions for it as well.
Yep.
It would almost be nice if the game also almost gave a list of which tiles it needs beforehand.
You're not the first person to suggest that. Alora was saying that the other day, actually, when she said, it'd be so less faffy if we just told you what you were expecting. I said, you couldn't do that with the minis, though, because then you'd gear yourself up ahead of time and plan your strategy. Yeah.
If you know ahead of time what stuff's going to be in the game, you lose some of that random element, and that's one of the one of the nice things about it, that you don't really know what's coming up.
Especially when you've got more of the stuff in it, because it randomizes the maps a bit more. There's a few more options in it.
Yeah.
So I think it's just something we have to grin and bear. But I mean, if you organise your box properly, it's not too bad. But it is still really thick. And playing it at your house, John, with a massive screen was really cool, because it's really thematic, really atmospheric. It's brilliant.
And with a decent sound system as well. I think one of the things that a lot of people forget about is the fact it's got that really nice, moody kind of music. And it does get more sinister as stuff goes more wrong.
Yes, it does.
So going from the most overpriced of games to the most underpriced of games, the third game we've all purchased this year
is Game of Trains. I like this one.
We all did. We've all bought it.
Well, we all did. That's why we all bought it.
But no, I mean, really
shit,
like this one.
But I'm going to buy it anyway.
The Andy approach. It's a game. Must buy, must buy, must buy.
Now, that's not entirely fair.
Not entirely.
So this game is unbelievably simple, really. Its premise is so simple, isn't it? Yeah. All you've got to do is you start off with a train of carriages, and the numbers are in reverse order, and you have to end the game with the carriages in ascending order.
Yep.
That's it.
Simples.
That's it. But it's a game that plays, 20 minutes a game?
Something like that. Yeah.
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 Up to 4 people, minimum of 2. Works best with 3 or 4.
Plenty of player interaction.
Yes.
Plenty of keeping an eye on what's going on so that things don't escape from you. And I think you can buy it in most places for under a tenner.
Yeah.
I don't actually know what the RRP is, but I know most places online have got it for under a tenner, which, as we say, probably game prices going up. A game for less than £10 is ridiculous.
And a good one.
Yeah, it's got quite a lot of replayability as well.
Yep, and it's small, it's light, you can take it on holiday, put it in your pocket, literally. It's great.
We took it on holiday and it got played. It's one of the most played games of that holiday, I would say.
Yeah, me and Laura did the same. Just Game of Trains, done. We got a lot of people in the pub because we were on Sky and we took that up and just playing it in the pub. Like, what on earth are you two playing? Game of Trains, do you want to join in? Well, I would, but I'm working, It was great.
I love that, being in a pub and random people ask you what game you're playing, and you can see them looking from sort of sideways from the side. Just, do you want to play? Do you want to come and join us? And they're like, no, it's fine. No, seriously, do you want to come and play? Oh yeah, go on then. I'd love to.
Talking about a pub. Pubs are on roads. You go for a curry on the way back from the pub down the road. So the fourth game on our list is Century Spice Road.
Ta-da!
So yes, the fourth game which we've all purchased is Century Spice Road, which I think John actually purchased 3 times.
Twice. Just the twice.
Just the twice.
He likes it that much.
Purchased it once. It was the German version. Then you got it for your birthday off 2 different people.
Yes, that is true, actually. My wife bought the German version. We sent that back. Then I asked for it for my birthday. Didn't think anyone had bought it for me, so I ordered it for myself, and then I got it for my birthday as well. So, yeah. So technically, I have had 3 copies of that game now. Does anyone want Century Spice Road for Christmas?
No.
As we've just discussed, all 3 of us own it.
No, fortunately, I've palmed it off onto one of our good friends, Mr. Nick Church.
Excellent. Oh, he rather enjoyed Mansions of Madness as well.
He did. It's a great game for new people, especially people who used to be board gamers, to come back to something like that. But yeah, Spice Road.
So interestingly enough, I played this with Laura's family, and Her youngest niece, of the family that we were with, is quite into board games now. I've shown her, and she picks up games frighteningly quickly. But she's 16 and her brain still works. But we played Spice Road with her, and she didn't get into it at all, much to my surprise. Although Alora's brother-in-law picked it up really well, and he's like into his 60s, and he absolutely demolished us at it.
Was that luck or judgment?
Oh, we played it more than once, and he spanked us every time.
But what about the game?
Well, he did quite well at that too.
All right.
But it is good. It's blingy, it's light, it's fun, it's straightforward.
There's opportunities to stab one another in the back.
There is.
What's not to like?
Yeah, it's surprisingly good at that. I mean, I got to admit, the first time I played it, I think everyone was kind of just looking at what they were doing. But there's that definite point where you're like, well, if I go and grab that, they're obviously going for that contract. If I grab that, that's going to really screw them up.
Yes.
Or I'm going to make sure that contract doesn't end up in the gold coin pile.
That's it, yes. I've been on the receiving end of that strategy quite a few times.
That's what you played against me, for starters.
Well, yes, that's true. Git.
So there we go. That's our 4 games that all 3 of us have bought this year. So that's Dice Forge, Mansions of Madness, A Game of Trains, and Century Spice Road.
All very good games.
Yeah.
What I wanted to do slightly differently on this episode is we were going to talk about our favourite games that we've played this year. But before we get to that, I was going to do the questions first. I know it's a bit arse about face.
We fear change, Steve. What are you doing?
Well, the reason is I didn't want to kind of lead up into like the game of the year and then do the questions afterwards. I want like the game of the year to be the reason why you want to stay listening,
And here's a brief interlude with some questions from you, our lovely listeners, or something like that.
You're bringing logic and reason into this argument, Steve. I don't like it.
Yeah, now that we're thinking about this review of the year, can I just take a moment to look back at how ramshackle we were a year ago? We don't even say #ramshackle like in an episode anymore. I was thinking about this when I listened to an episode the other day.
No, maybe we're getting more professional. No, maybe not.
We spent quite a while setting up the mics properly, for starters.
That is true.
You say we haven't said #ramshackle, but you buggered up your recording last episode.
Yeah, and then spent 5 hours redeeming myself, I'd like to add.
And for the last 3 podcasts, whenever you turn your microphone and camera on, Steve, you can't hear us. John and I are sat here ready, and you're sat in the background for 10 minutes, pissing about, trying to send your sound through your microphone.
Arguing with Skype.
Well, that's not. I blame that entirely on Skype, especially now that I can't actually find the settings. I loaded up Skype, it's like, right, I just need to go into the microphone settings. Well, where are they? Where are settings gone? No, I've got to be in a video call to go to the settings.
Yeah, it's really dumb.
Yeah, I bloody hate Skype at the moment.
You should feed back to Microsoft. They'd love to hear your feedback. They keep hassling me for it every time I finish the bloody call. We'd like to know what you think. And you really don't want to know what I honestly think. One from my friend and, I say client, actually, Sven, has asked us, what was our top gaming product that isn't a game in 2017? Liking enough that we actually spent money on it. Which is a good question. And I have absolutely no idea, and by the look of Steve's dumbfounded face, neither does he.
No. I have something. I spent a lot of money on a gaming product that wasn't a game.
Oh, yes, you did. Yes, we've all benefited from that.
Was it a sparkly dildo?
Butt plug, please.
Butt plug. Oh, my God.
But didn't buy that. That was a review product.
Well, you sent one. Now, that would have been funny.
No, what I bought was a Geek & Son gaming table this year.
Oh, yes.
You did. It's very nice.
And it's very, very nice.
Yeah.
Customised as well. You big tart.
It's got, well, I got the inlay printed on 2 sides. So I got a bezier on one side, and then the other side got the printed with the Polyhedron Collider logo, because I thought, why not?
It is awesome. Have you sorted out getting the other side grey instead of green now?
Yes, because to explain that, there was a little bit of a mix-up with the order. So when the first part came, we ordered it double-sided, so it originally came like a green, so like a poker table, and the Polyhedron Collider logo on. But yeah, that wasn't what we ordered, but they sorted that out. It just took a few weeks because you got to wait for production because everything's made in Poland.
Mm.
Ooh.
So it just took a few weeks for production to build up, and then it came in. I think it came into the country the Wednesday before Essen. So the entire Geek and Sun team was loading up the van to take stuff to Essen, and my replacement came. And I'm not kidding. I live about 8 miles away from the Geek and Sun office.
Coincidence? We think not.
That's convenient.
Well, it was convenient because they quite literally brought it back on their way back from Essen. They got back from Essen, unloaded their stuff, and then put my replacement insert in and came over.
That's service.
And I was quite like, that's pretty good, because I would, if you'd have said, no, I want to go home and go to sleep, I would have been quite reasonable and expected that. But yeah, they said they sent it over to me as soon as they possibly could.
That's really good of them.
Nice.
But it's a brilliant table. It is an oak dining table that looks like a really nice oak dining table. And we've had people around who don't know what it is go, oh, that's a lovely table. It's like, whoa, wait a minute, wait to see what it does now.
Whoop, 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 whoop.
So pop the lids and show the gaming table, and off you go.
Indeed. It doesn't have the lighting around the edge, though, does it? Or does it?
No.
No, I didn't get that because I thought it was a bit glary, the lighting around the edge.
Sure.
Yeah.
The other thing I didn't get was the D&D screen, which I was very tempted by.
So nice.
So you can get the RPG screen that kind of folds out from one end and gives you a screen and a little mini table.
Mm.
And I didn't get it at the time because I wasn't playing many RPGs. And then because they basically make these to order, so the order was like 4 or 5 months. I then started an RPG session and regretted not getting it. And then my D&D group has since fallen apart about the same time it got delivered.
Oh, no.
So it's
No.
like, but I kind of decided I didn't need it. It's a beautiful thing to have, but you could, you need the big room on a table for playing big board games. We played Game of Thrones on it the other week, and it fits with loads of room. But you don't need that much space for it. You don't need the extra thing for an RPG. Works quite well just as it is.
So what you're saying is we need to play some more RPGs.
Yes.
Which
Yes, we
neatly
do.
leads on to the only gaming product that wasn't a game that I bought this year, which was some lovely Chessex dice for playing RPGs.
Nice.
Ah.
Smooth.
Yes.
That was very nice.
When did you buy yours, Andy? Because you got some extremely swanky RPG dice.
Oh, my metal ones. I
Yeah.
bought a second set as well.
Did you indeed?
I
The table
did.
ruiners.
Yes. So I have the sort of silvery affairs, and then I from Paladin Dice. There's a nice little plug. They're very nice, and they're very good. The customer service is superb, actually. And they do a black set as well. So I thought I could get another silver set, or no, I'll mix it up a bit and get a black set as well. And they're very nice. They're just as heavy, and they will dent oak tables if you're not careful.
Don't let him.
No rolling them on the oak. You're rolling them on the bezier.
Oh yeah. They're hefty, but they are so nice.
I'd even be scared of rolling them on the bezier, to be honest.
They're all right. It's fine.
They're not going down the dice tower either. It might shatter it.
I think there's a good chance of that.
Yes.
By the way, my table did come with a dice tower, and I love it, but it has a habit of launching dice out of it.
Really
two or
does.
three dice, and they rattle to the bottom nicely. But what we were playing, was it Gloom of Kilthorpe, when we were like rolling a handful of dice?
They were
And
launching.
Ethnos as well.
And he thought, yeah, and they were launching out the
They
damn
were.
thing.
One nearly ended up in my tea.
I think you get extra points for that, don't you? That's a natural
do.
20, right?
Yeah. A natural 30. There is one thing I did do this year. It doesn't really count as a gaming product, but it's almost thematically linked to RPGs, actually. I have quite a lot of D&D stuff now. Pretty much all of the D&D source books, including is it Xanathar's Guide to Everything?
Xanathar's
That's very
Guide
good.
to Everything.
Yeah, that's the one. That's really good. But I decided to restore an old chest. So Alora had this sort of tacky, sort of old tool chest, basically, and it was falling apart a little bit. And it was bare wood, and she didn't want it. So I thought, right, I'm having that. So I had this vision of like a D&D like dungeon, like a proper treasure chest almost, that you'd find in a dungeon. So I didn't buy the chest itself, but I bought all the wood stain and stained it a sort of a dark oak colour. Replaced all the screws that hold the metalwork together in it. So they're sort of brass screws, so they look like gold inlets. and added a handle to it, and it looks the bollocks, I might add. So now all my D&D stuff, including my leather tomes, are now neatly stored in this chest.
If you're a Discworld reader, I think it reminds me quite a lot of the luggage.
Yes!
Yes, it is. It is. I saw it the other weekend. It is actually really pretty.
Yes, I even added the...
You've done a nice work on that.
Thank you.
It looks like it ought to sprout legs and just stand up and then eat you if you get a bit close.
It's a mimic, yes. I've created a mimic. But I even added the gold chain stays that sit inside it, so it doesn't actually... Because originally the lid just sort of fell backwards. I thought, well, that's quite annoying. So I did the chain stays as well. So, yes, that took me best part of a weekend, but it's I'm glad I did it.
I think it's really satisfying building stuff to put things in.
It
Like
is.
board gaming shelves and cases and things. One of these days, I'm going to get round to building the shelves in our dining room. Any day now. Any day. I think it's been well over 2 years and counting.
I was going to say, you started that when you moved in.
Yeah.
I remember going over one Christmas to play games with you in the afternoon, and we didn't start playing games because you had a circular saw and we were chopping up bits to make that shelf, and I'm pretty sure that was 3 years ago.
Yeah, that was the boxing bit to box in the wall bed that was going to sit in between the shelves.
Yes, I remember that. Didn't you get rid of that wall bed eventually? Is it still there?
No, it's still there. Still works. It's great. Good at flinging cats into walls. So, John Wall. Haha, see what I did there? I'm getting good at this.
Good grief.
Listeners, come back. John Wall asks, have you tried the new Fallout game?
I'm assuming he's talking about the FFG Fallout game.
He is, yes,
'cause that's come out. Well, he might not be, because he might be talking about the Modiphius Fallout game.
Oh.
Because there's 2 Fallout games coming out at the moment. One is the Fallout game from Fantasy Flight Games, which is a board game. The other one is the Fallout Wasteland Warfare game, which is a miniatures game from Modiphius.
Yeah, I don't know, actually, knowing John, because he's a bit of a computer gamer. Sorry, John is a friend of mine. He's one of the managers at the Nag's Head. But he's actually a bit of a video gamer. This is obviously why he's asking the question. I don't know.
Either way, the answer's no.
The answer's no, but. Because I think we probably all quite like to play it. We just haven't got around to it yet.
Yeah, I did see if I could try and buy it, but it's just sold out.
I've asked for it for Christmas, and I've got the same problem. I think it is. This is one of the 4 games that came out. The Fantasy Flight version is one of the 4 games that came out this week, and I think it's already sold out.
That doesn't surprise me.
Very popular. Now, the Modiphius one, I don't think is out yet, but that does sound very interesting as well. Because what that is a miniatures game, but there are, rather than it being just your standard miniature skirmish games, I think it's going to be very similar to kind of your Necromunda kind of game. So you're going to have your different factions. You've got like 4 or 5 different factions against each other, and you're going to have a handful of models.
Okay.
But you're going to have options to do solo games,
Ooh.
which I've never seen in a miniatures game before. And you also have like scenarios like horde mode, where like enemies are just going to swarm onto the board and you have to kill them all.
Oh, like almost like a survival mode.
Yeah.
Okay.
So the problem with that is this is harming, I think, the Fantasy Flight version, because when they announced this, you can pre-order, you can pre-order the Borg Cube from Modiphius.
Yes.
You could pre-order the Wasteland Warfare set, and it was the complete set, and the price made the Borg Cube look like a drop in the ocean.
Seriously?
Right.
Yeah, because it was like the equivalent of going out and buying like 4 armies for 40k in one day kind of thing. So it was hundreds of pounds, and a lot of people have looked at that and gone, "Oh, I'm not paying that much for one game." Well, that's every single minute that's available. It's going to be available for it. It's not just enough to play it. So the answer to John's question is no. None of us have played either game, but I think we all want to play both of them.
And at least one of us will almost certainly buy the FFG version anyway.
Look out, 2018 Board Game Awards.
We shall have to see.
Paul Grogan asks, what games came out in 2017 which one of you thinks might be a top 10 game for you, but you haven't played yet?
That is a difficult question.
Gloomhaven is a game you haven't played yet, which I think you're going to like a lot.
Yeah, that's definitely the impression that I get.
The top game I can think of that came out this year that I think I'm going to like, but I'm probably never going to play, is Seventh Continent.
Yeah.
I think that's right up my street, but I kind of refused to back the second Kickstarter of that because it was getting stupid.
Yeah.
Stupid in what respect?
We talked about this in the last episode when we were talking about Kickstarter. It was getting to the point where they kept adding add-ons.
Yes, okay, I remember.
So, it was 200 quid, and then there was another 20 quid add-on. So, okay, that's 220 quid. Then there's another 40 quid add-on. Okay, that's 260 quid. And there was a lot of fear of missing out baiting in the Kickstarter campaign. And I just kind of, and I got to admit, even to the last minute, I think there was like half an hour left before I was comfortable that I decided, no, I'm not buying this.
Yeah.
But it was tempting. The other game, which I think I'm really like the look of, which was a couple actually, I'm just looking for a list of things now. I really like the look of Photosynthesis.
Yes.
Yeah, that did sound really interesting.
Because I think that's a game that all three of us would like as well, because it sits right in the middle of our tastes.
Yeah, it's a bit like Planetarium.
Yes. I tried to buy that today, but it's sold out everywhere.
Yeah, that's the problem at the moment. I think a lot of games are struggling to get stock in. I think games are more popular than what the distributors and manufacturers seem to be based on. Or it's like video games and movies where people buy everything in the first month and then it goes. The only other one that really takes my fancy, which I think I'm going to like, but I'm waiting for Andy to buckle and buy it, is Twilight Imperium 4.
I am not going to buy that.
He totally is.
Yet. I've played my copy of TI3 with 2 expansions once, and I've not even played the expansions yet. I'm not getting TI4. There's no point.
He's totally buying it next week.
It's on the record, folks. That's what he said. It is the 14th of December 2017. We will give you an update when he buys it, and then we can look back and say, he did it then.
I'll give him a week.
Steve.
So, Mr. Lewis, is there anything you have seen that came out this year that you think is probably going to be your game of the year?
I wouldn't go so far as to say game of the year, but something I think is going to be bloody good is Dead of Winter, Warring Colonies.
Okay.
Because I have bought it.
Therefore, it must be true.
I haven't played it. I haven't even read the rule book yet. It's on my pile of shame. But I like the idea of it. It's a nice... I mean... Remember when I sort of basically tore Plaid out a new one about expandalones? I guess they did that with A Long Night, and I didn't like the idea. But now they've kind of put me back in my box and said, well, actually, Lewis, there's a reason we've done that, and here's Warring Colonies, so shut up. So I quite like that idea. Basically,
I wish they'd said that at the time, though.
Yes. It was a bit of a dick move.
Because the reasons why they gave for having like all the bits in there was really a really rubbish reason. And I know there were people who threw away the duplicate stuff.
Oh, it's just
no.
Quinn's from Shut Up and Sit Down is on record as saying because he lives in a house in London, he's got not got much room, so to put everything back in one box, he threw away everything that was a duplicate, thinking he wouldn't need it.
Oh dear. Well, let that be a lesson to you.
But that's the sort of thing you could write to a publisher and say, you didn't make it clear. You should have said, I've thrown this away. Please, can I have another set of this stuff?
You can for the princely sum of £45, yes.
Shut Up and Sit Down are probably one of the few people who played that would probably just go, yeah, off you go.
All right, yeah. But I think it'd be quite good because it's a nice advancement of the concept. Because I do quite like Dead of Winter. Everyone hates that D12. But The Long Night, which admittedly I haven't played yet either, adds a few more things like soldiers and super mutants and all that sort of jazz. And then Warring Colonies pits you, sort of basically 2 teams, so you can play with like 10 people running 2 colonies that have to go out to the same location. So it's a competitive game. It's a competitive team game, which I think is quite interesting. I haven't played it. I don't know what it's like, but it looks interesting. And I like the sound of it. I think it could get quite feisty. Well, there's kind of 2 questions together, really, isn't there? There's Poppelschlieber and Geekinson have both asked questions along the same lines.
Okay.
Sorry, my German's not great. Poppelschieber? I would like to hear your thoughts on the gaming year 2017. Was it a good one? Lots of good titles, or do you think it was more of a mediocre one? Discuss. And Geekinson have asked, I would love to hear what you guys view and what you'd like to see 2018 improve on what 2017 brought to the con scene and gaming scene as a whole. So, 2 questions along similar lines.
I was looking actually through, when I've been putting together this list for this episode, I was looking at the games that have come out this year and the games I've played this year. And I looked back at the games that came out last year, and my gut feeling is that on the whole, 2016 was better for me for games released.
I would say the
agree
same
with that. Yeah. Well, there we go.
More games that I thought were top tier games last year. But I mean, as we said earlier, you can't play absolutely everything, so there could be a few absolute belters out there that were missing. But
yeah, no, I think we're all in agreement there that 16 was probably better than 17.
Yeah, for the games that we like,
yeah,
definitely. I mean, that's it's down to your personal opinion that of what your favourite kind of games are. But I mean, looking at stuff that came out in Essen, I've got to admit, I mean, we came up with our list of like what we thought was interesting at Essen, but nothing that came out this year I'm absolutely desperate to get hold of.
Or you already have.
No, I haven't. I haven't bought anything that came out at Essen.
No, you haven't, have you? No, that's true.
No.
I don't think I have either. Oh, yes, I have. Yes, I have.
What have you bought?
The one I'm going to talk about later.
So, yeah, Photosynthesis, we mentioned that. I think that was an Essen game, which I would quite like to play. And there was another one. The Expanse is a kind of an Essen release. I'd still really like to play The Expanse.
Oh, yes.
I'm still hearing mixed reviews about that game. So
I was going to say, I'm still quite paranoid about how well that's going to turn out.
It did look quite boring and very grey.
Yeah. But on the whole, I think, there's just some games that I consider much better games came out last year. But as for what Geek and Son have asked, because they've also asked about con scene and gaming scene, so thinking about beyond board games, as in beyond the physical board games that came out, I think there's been a lot more cons coming out, a lot more announcements of conventions. There's especially when 2018 is concerned, because we've got one convention that we are all going to that wasn't around last year.
Yeah.
Which is the City of Games convention in Bristol.
Not the City of Kings. I always get those two confused. It's very clever marketing.
Yeah.
It's like Frank's thought about it, isn't it? He's clever, man.
Isn't it?
It's genius.
There's the Tabletop Gaming Magazine are doing a new convention in London in September next year.
I hadn't heard about that.
Which looks quite interesting. I'm keeping my eye on that, see how that does. Now, this year, it didn't affect us. This is more of a worldwide thing, but PAX did their first board game convention. So PAX is Penny Arcade Expo and is a massive American convention where they do 2 or 3 a year. You know, PAX East, PAX West, and I think they did PAX Australia as well.
Wow.
Which are like a massive video gaming convention, which also has like a good chunk of tabletop stuff. But this year they did their first tabletop convention, and I'm hearing from other people that went, I'm hearing lots of really good stuff about that, because it wasn't the hardcore gamers going. It wasn't the people who go to Essen that were going. It was that, and don't take this the wrong way, John, but it was more of the John Cage kind of gamer that went.
Oh, you mean awesome gamers?
What, the ones that can't build dice or read rules?
I was drunk.
It's not an excuse.
What I mean is, like me and Andy are the people who've, we talk about Andy's acquisition disorder. We're the people who own like 200 games each. Whereas I kind of got the impression the people at PAX are the people that own like 20 games kind of thing and want, one game which they're going to play for the next 6 months, but really enjoy. So they're looking for the absolute belter of a game that fits into that.
You know what I love about this podcast? I used to be that really geeky guy that had all those hundreds of board games in everyone else's eyes. And I've since come to realise that I'm like so far down that scale. I'm relatively normal.
Well,
relatively. When it comes to board gamings.
Your cupboard is not as full as ours.
That's true.
But what would we like to see improve? So 2018, what would we like to see different?
More games that we like.
Nice.
Which is a very hard thing to pin down exactly what
I'd like games to be a little bit cheaper, but I don't
God,
think that's going to
yes,
happen
yes.
anytime soon.
Oh,
Maybe better value for money then. So it's
Yeah.
okay games being more expensive if you get more stuff with them. But when it feels like, it's a very expensive game and you haven't got the content or, some wacky great mechanic that you absolutely love to back it up.
yeah.
Maybe that's
Value
what's
for
missing.
money.
Yeah. I'm worried we're going to have a little bit of a... what's the terminology I need for this?
Lull.
I'm worried there's going to... No, not a lull. I'm not meaning about that kind of thing. I'm worried we're going to have a kind of controversial or sexist or racist incident happen soon.
Oh.
That makes
Really?
sense. Yeah, because it's happened with Magic recently. I don't know the full story, but there was something about a Magic cosplayer and the abuse and general sexual harassment she faced.
Oh, no.
So, I mean, we're not Magic players, but we do play the odd CCG, and it's kind of fringe to what we do. So, what I'd like to see improved is I'd like to see that kind of shit never happening, really.
Indeed.
Yeah. And my worry is that, I'm being pessimistic here, but I'm worried that as board gaming, we're missing that big event that's going to happen. And I hope that the whole tabletop gaming community, can act like adults and this never happen. But
No, indeed.
So you'd like to see more inclusion, more women in the hobby. There you go. More diversity is what I'm saying.
some people will construe that as being positively, what's the word? Positive discrimination by saying more diversity or more women in the hobby. I just want us to be more open.
Yeah.
Come along if you want. We're welcome.
We don't bite.
Join us.
We'd love you to join us.
Like black and white.
John.
Join us was from Dungeon Keeper, wasn't it? Join us. Come with us.
It was. That was a long time ago. Good Lord. Showing your age there, Steve.
No, well,
we
be
show
one
it
of many
every
things.
we
He
show it
says,
every episode.
mentioning black and white. Yeah,
we put the Kickstart theme music on the end of the last episode.
that's
Yeah, I
true.
think it was
Yeah.
I think I was about 4 when that was on television.
I still don't get that. Maybe it was like a northern/western thing.
Pretty much.
Yeah, I think it was, wasn't it?
It was great just watching people fall off bikes into mud.
This year I've seen some bizarre missteps of marketing as well.
Mm.
The whole Renegade Games and Clank in Space thing was such a bizarre marketing exercise. And I think, although Fantasy Flight Games seem to be producing top games, I think the way they're marketing them at the moment seems a bit odd, and their release schedule still seems really odd.
Mm.
Why are they releasing 4 games 2 weeks before Christmas kind of thing?
Seems a bit late.
Yeah. So that's one thing I'd like to see done better in 2017. I'd like to see a better approach to marketing games and a better approach to publishing, distribution games in a, I don't say a timely manner, but I think that's really what I want, because you've still got the problem. I think I don't know how many of you guys have seen it, but you've seen it, Azul?
Oh yeah.
The little tile making game. Everyone's saying that's sold out everywhere because that's doing really well, so the production can't keep up with the demand. So what I'd like to see going ahead is distributors getting a better idea of how popular their game is going to be, because we've seen that a few times actually this year. Terraforming Mars, Gloomhaven. Towards the end of last year, we also saw it with the Arkham Horror card game.
Mm.
There's a lot of companies are producing games. Of course, now we're seeing it with Azul, we're seeing it with Fallout. Companies are making these games and they're really popular, and they go, "Oh, we only made about 1,000." People are going nuts buying them. Yeah.
Mm. That would be nice.
I think as one final thing to improve in 2018, I gotta say rule books. The number of times that we've podcasted this year and whinged and bitched about how awful some rulebook is, and how honestly it spoilt the game to some extent.
Apparently, you were just drunk, though, John.
Yeah, that was one. That one isn't as bad. If you can actually see that the dice faces have a 1 on the back, it's not just a yellow sort of blurred blob, which could be one of several tiles. Anyway, we're getting off the point.
Yes. No, I agree with you there. Okay, so another question then. Mark Tattersall asks, do you think this has been a year in which solo gaming has come to the fore? And if you do, how do you feel about that? Also, what about consolidation in the industry? Which he says, Asmodee in particular, is that good or bad for the hobby? Now, that's a very timely question, the second half of it, because it was just today that is Devium, which are the biggest board game distributor in the UK, who have been Asmodee owned for quite some time, changing their name to Asmodee UK very soon.
Interesting.
So, first question then, what are your thoughts on solo gaming, and do you think it's come to the fore this year?
I haven't played a single solo game this year.
I think I've played Mansions of Madness once, maybe twice on my own, but I wouldn't say it's something I do regularly. I mean, I play a game on my own to learn the rules, but that's all. I mean, has it come to the fore?
I think I can confidently say all three of us are not solo board gamers. I think I'm the same as you, Andy, especially if it's a game that can be played solo. I will play it solo to learn the rules. But I've not seen a game yet which I would rather play solo than play with a group.
Agreed.
I still haven't played Super Hot multiplayer yet. So Super Hot was a card game which is predominantly a single player game. And that was quite interesting. That felt a little bit like playing the old solitaire card game.
Oh, yeah.
But with guns.
Lots of guns.
Yes. I have noticed a lot more games having solo options in now that they didn't have.
Yeah, that's very true.
Yeah. I mean, Stonemeyer's had an Automa version all the way through, pretty much. Though I don't think he has an Automa version of Euphoria. I might be wrong. I can't remember seeing one. But Viticulture does. Scythe does. His new one does. But I have noticed actually in the community as a whole, a few more people do seem to be talking about solo games. And just, like, it's pissing down this afternoon. I just went through a game on my own. So I thought, oh, okay, fine. So it does seem to, I wouldn't say, is it more popular? I don't know. I don't know how popular it used to be.
It seems to be more prevalent. There seems to be more people talking about playing solo games on some of the Facebook groups we go to.
Yeah.
And I'm noticing a lot of Kickstarters, people ask for solo versions or add-ons or stretch goals that are solo versions.
There's definitely more options to do it, that's for certain.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
It's a bit of a weird one because I don't really... Occasionally I'll play a solo game, but not that much.
We have kind of been asked about this in the past, though. I'm sure
we touched on it.
Yeah. Do we buy a game to play solo? And the answer was pretty much a resounding no.
I think the conclusion we reached last time was that if we were going to play a game solo, we'd probably play a computer game.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
And I got to admit, if a solo game is on, like, I played quite a lot of the Pathfinder card game on the iPad on my commute on the train. So that's a game you can play solo, but for some reason I will always pick that up on the iPad. Even though I've got a physical copy, to play solo, I'll pick it up on the iPad. So I'm more or less playing a video game rather than playing a card game. Yeah.
Again, yeah, you want the automation done by the computer, don't you? It's less faffy.
Yeah, basically.
There we go.
So the second half of his question, what about consolidation? And he's talking about Asmodee in particular.
We've addressed this before, I'm sure we have, or at least we've discussed it.
I think we've discussed it. I'm just trying to remember if we've discussed it on mic or if we discussed it off mic.
I'm pretty sure we've discussed it in a podcast.
We have, yeah, a while ago. But again, it was along the same lines. Is it good or bad for the hobby? Is it because you could take the point of view that you're making everything sort of homogenized and generic because you're making everyone one sort of gelatinous mass, like Electronic Arts, and all they do is churn out garbage these days. I don't think that's the case with, at least currently at the moment, I don't think it's the case with things like, Asmodee owning FFG and things like that, because they're independent companies and they seem to do their own thing.
I've not seen anything that suggests it's homogenised yet, because if you think of the main companies under Asmodee, it's Asmodee itself. Lillybud, we were just talking about Dice Forge earlier. FFG, of course, we're talking about now. FFG's, I'd also suggest that Fantasy Flight Games' identity is consolidated because they've actually moved a couple of games to another company that were then more Euro-y games. So they've really honed in on that, Twilight Imperium, Fallout, theme dice miniatures kind of game.
Stick to what they know.
Yeah, so far, I'm of the opinion that I think it's good so far because what a lot of going games companies are missing is that kind of experience, that shared experience and that shared ability to get games to the market.
Yeah, the lessons learned from the bits that you didn't do quite right. That's
Yeah.
If they pull all of that stuff and don't dilute down the creative juices from any of the individuals, I agree. I think it's a good thing.
And also with the larger companies, whilst there's obviously more expensive involved because you get management by committee potentially, which I don't think we've actually seen so far, is that you also get the financial backing and the financial security for larger projects.
Yeah.
So you get better production values, you get more copies of something, you get better artwork, etc., etc., and of course you can publish more copies of the game.
In theory, also it means they can take more risks.
Exactly.
Because you can stick with your, okay, we know this should make X amount of dollars or euros. Show me age there.
Parisian Steve, they call him.
Oui.
In fact, although there's one game we're going to talk about soon that's going to completely undermine that argument, but never mind.
Okay, fair enough. We'll get to that when we get to it. As I seem to remember seeing when this Asmodee was first formed and they released, you could find the PowerPoint presentation, which was the big one to investors, and they put a figure on the value of Asmodee at that time. And to put it into context, the value of Asmodee, once it had merged with FFG and several other companies, was still less than Games Workshop.
Wow.
So everyone keeps saying they're becoming the Borg and they're becoming this massive company that's going to, the biggest company in board gaming, but they're not the biggest company in tabletop gaming. And I still think they are miles behind Wizards of the Coast.
Yeah. Oh, totally. WOC and GW are an order of magnitude bigger in terms of financial clout, roughly.
I think none of us are concerned at this point.
No.
Yeah, that's fair.
And there's plenty of smaller companies out there as well, as you can see with the popularity of Kickstarter. So even if things do get homogenized, there's plenty of other small startup companies, people with imaginations who aren't restricted by this, management by committee nonsense. So even if it does happen, which I don't think it will, certainly not in this foreseeable future, there's plenty of outlet for people with, creative juices, as John says.
So to speak.
Yes. My juice is very creative.
Oh, let's move on quickly. So, Mark McKinnon asks, you decided to take a back seat with reviews due to the oversaturation of content, some poor quality. Do you think this will continue, or will the market right itself?
So I think this was aimed mainly at me because for people who don't go to the polyhedroncollider.com website.
And why wouldn't they? God damn it.
Yeah. I put a little blog post up 2 months ago.
If that was that 2 months ago.
It's about that. It's a while back. I'm not about 6 weeks, 2 months, something like that ago. Saying that I was going to take a bit of a break from reviewing games, as in writing written reviews for the website. So I'm still going to carry on with the podcast because why wouldn't I? Because it's fun.
Which is why all the reviews we've published in the last 6 weeks have been written by me.
Yes. So there's a couple of reasons I cited. Number one, I was starting to burn out a little bit from writing reviews. I wasn't enjoying writing them. I wasn't in a regular game group at the time, which means it's a pain in the ass to try and write reviews when you're not playing the bloody games. And I was feeling a bit of a
disillusionment
with basically board game reviews in general, and a little bit of an annoyance at some other reviews. And that's what I think he's looking at here. Some like this oversaturation of media content.
Yeah.
Honestly, this oversaturation of media content will continue because in this day and age, the barrier to entry to making a podcast, a YouTube channel, a blog, whatever, is unbelievably low.
Even we can do it.
Yeah.
No one can stop us. Woo!
It's so low you can't find it. You have to dig for it.
I have since found a more regular game group, so I am hoping that in the new year I will start writing some reviews again myself. We've got a little bit of a plan. We might be getting some more people on the website to write reviews.
Ooh!
So there might be some more reviews coming in general. As for oversaturation, I don't think it's going to end. It's just hopefully the cream will rise to the top, which means we'll be right at the bottom.
I was about to say, you do realise some turds also float, Steve.
Yes, we will survive.
But what I'm going to do is I'm definitely going to take on less Kickstarter. Well, I might not even take any on Kickstarter games. It depends what comes out. Now, I say that with Mark, who did a Kickstarter game which we loved. So I shall caveat that straight away. We'll be doing a lot less Kickstarter games, and those Kickstarter games we do review are going to be based on prior
lead time.
Well, lead times, I would think prior discussions and knowledge of the game, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So, like Mark, if directly asking Mark, we've worked with you in the past. If you came to us and asked for a review, we'd probably go, yeah, what the hell. If someone comes out of the blue and sends me an email asking me to review a game and I don't like the look of it and I've never heard of them and never spoke to a con or something like that, or haven't had a discussion with them on Twitter, I'm going to go, well, you need to sell it to me now. You need to try and make me want to review it off you. And so be a bit more selective. Because I think one of the problems I had was too many crap Kickstarter games.
It wears you down after a while, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Oh,
and then besides, I think we could not take on any games to review and just review our own games and have enough content to last us till end of 2018 anyway.
True. We've had another question.
Have we?
We have. From the City of Games.
Oh.
I know.
This is burning.
Speaking of the devil. He asks, do we check our phone or tweets during the recording?
No.
Yes, we do actually, Frank.
Andy's permanently glued to his phone during recording, so yes. If you can't hear Andy, it's usually because he's on his phone.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's why sometimes he asks ridiculous questions to things that that Steve and I have just spoken about.
No.
I've
Maybe
re-listened
once.
to several podcasts, and there's a point where you ask a question about something we've literally just discussed, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, no, that's the opposite of what we were just talking about, Andy. All right, yes. That's
what the editing process is for. Make me sound a lot less stupid than I am.
Pretty sure Steve edits it around so that we sound worse.
No, seriously, that's the best I could do with it, with what I've got available.
There's only by so much you can polish a turd, isn't there?
Garbage in, garbage out, as they say.
Yeah, it's fair.
So, it's time to talk what are the best games we have played in 2017. And as I said earlier, we have cunningly retitled that. So it's not the best games released in 2017, it's the best games we've played in 2017. So what we picked 3 each that we're going to talk about in a bit more detail. We have not done a top 10 because we're not the Dice Tower.
Ooh! Twist that knife, Steve. Twist it. Go on.
Well, yeah, that's...
Although we do have 10
That's all
honourable mentions.
We do have do we? Oh right, we've got a top 10 honourable mentions there. So the honourable mentions are games which didn't make it quite into our top selection, but I think are worth a mention. Basically, a tick in the box, a thumbs up.
Yeah.
So the first game I wanted to quickly mention was Runewars.
Which is the game that undermines your argument from before.
Yes, which I want to give it an honourable mention, if only because I think by this time next year we'll have completely forgotten about this game. So Runewars was Fantasy Flight Games' regimental fantasy battle game. I really liked it.
I'd like to play it once.
And I enjoyed beating you at it.
Yeah. John said he would like to play it, but based on the way in which this was being sold off during Black Friday sales in this country, I think it's dead.
Yep.
Because people were selling off that core box, I think, at either cost price or a lost leader to shift it. It was being sold for less than half price in a lot of online retailers.
Quite telling, isn't it?
It was good, though. Very, very pretty miniatures.
Yeah, well, I think the problem was with this that the figure miniatures, so that the kind of standout ones of the Stone Golem and the Worm Rider, were amazing and different. But I think the rest of the miniatures, although well sculpted, were a bit generic. And I don't think the game did enough to catch people's imagination. And then there was some confusion in the way the game was advertised, because I remember Secret Cabal were thinking there was going to be 2 sets of rules, a skirmish rule and a regimental rule. And it wasn't. There was no skirmish rules.
And you needed 2 sets as well, really.
Well, that's the problem with every single FFG game. Every single miniatures or card game, you need multiple sets.
And it wasn't cheap.
Well, that's the other problem as well. It was about £100 for this core set, and That's a lot of money anyway, but compare it to what Games Workshop are doing. The 40k core set is about 20 quid cheaper than that. The Age of Sigma core set is a bit cheaper than that. And FFG may be hitting out the park with a lot of games, as they say in America. But Games Workshop, being a British company, are hitting it for £6 at the moment.
Yeah, very good. Very good.
I like that. That's good there. Bit of internationalism.
How's that? Sorry, Americans. Look it up.
As I said, I think it's dead, which is a bit of a shame. But
it is. But
doesn't help that they've really pushed the Star Wars game a lot earlier than I thought they would as well. So there's a Star Wars miniatures game coming next year, which is actual it's not a spaceship, it's a troops-based game.
Ooh.
And based on a normal release cycle, that wouldn't be looking to come out until like June next year, but it's coming out in like January, February.
That's going to clean up.
Is that like a measure with tape measures, move troops around?
Yeah, so 40k in Star Wars, so Star Troopers versus Rebels.
We found something John can spend his bitcoins on.
Ooh, yeah.
There you go.
Not got money left now.
If they keep going up in value like they do, John will be able to buy Fantasy Flight games soon.
That's true.
Watch this space.
Good God. So the next one we had on our list was a game I bought actually through Kickstarter, and I think this is a game that's hopefully putting Game Salute back in the good books. Is because in the sense that it wasn't shit and they delivered it on time and to cost.
I'd call that a win.
Yeah, exactly. And it was a win because it is beautiful and a really good game, and that is Planetarium.
I was really impressed by this game. It is a real good take that, balance the books kind of game, isn't it?
Yeah.
You're trying to manipulate the board to get one of those planets exactly where you want it to score the points, but everyone else is tugging that planet in completely opposite directions to where you need it to be.
Well, not necessarily, but they're not even doing it deliberately necessarily. They're just pulling it in the direction that they need it, and you're like, yeah, that's okay. I can let that one go. And then you're like, well, I can let it go a little bit further. That's fine. Actually, I do need it to come a little bit further back. No, why is he helping him?
Listen, you two, stop it. That's my planet. Get off.
With 2 players, it's like it can be a bit back and forth, but with 3, it's brilliant. 3 or more, because you can't absolutely control it. So you can you're just sort of hedging your bets to see how.
It's like a horse race where you're changing your mind over which horse you're betting on to win.
Yes.
But at the same time, having subtle effects on what the horse is doing, like altering the weight of the jockey or giving him a bit more carrots to eat or something like that.
It's an interesting analogy. It's quite true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
I think we all really enjoyed that one.
I'm glad I got that.
So another game I wanted to give a quick shout out to, which is a bit of a weird game because I'm beginning to think this game is actually a really bad game, but I've played it the most of any game this year, apart from possibly Splendor, which is the Dark Souls board game. And we're talking about solo board games earlier. I've played this solo a lot because I keep hoping it's going to be better next time I play it, I think.
It's like the original computer game then. It's addictive in the sense that you can't let go. Like you kind of feel like you should still be able to do this thing, and then you throw the controller at the screen again, and then 10 minutes later you're back doing it because I was so close though, I could actually do this thing.
That's exactly what it's like. It's bizarre that they've managed to capture the feel of Dark Souls. I think this game works terrible as a solo game, pretty bad as a 2-player game, okay as a 3-player game, and well as a 4-player game. You've got to have 4 characters to get the full feel of it for it to work properly. And I just think the loot and experience system is just badly thought out and rubbish.
I was about to say, there are a couple of dreadful mechanics in it.
Yeah, and I think the combat I quite like. The combat and the AI and the way it's relentless, I actually think is good. But the rewards for the fights and the way you've got to choose if you want to grind or just pot luck whether you're going to get an item out of the inventory at the store that you actually want or can use. I just think is just an awful design decision. Yes. And I've seen some fan-made variations appearing online, and I think with those variations, I think the game could improve. But I like it. I will play it again gladly, but
especially with 4 players.
Yeah, but I have to admit that it's got some pretty serious flaws, and I can't recommend it.
Fair play.
Wow. There we go.
Another game that I am torn about will be This War of Mine.
War torn.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah.
You're full of this tonight, John, aren't you?
I'm on fire.
Full of something.
How dare you?
Yes.
So This War of Mine, I think, is actually bizarrely enough, whereas Dark Souls, I think, really does capture the feel of the Dark Souls video game. This War of Mine is an almost pixel perfect copy of This War of Mine, the video game.
Oh, it really is. Yes, I'm really glad I backed this.
Which I think is its greatest strength and also its greatest weakness.
It is. It is punishingly difficult. I mean, Dark Souls has its moments, but my God, This War of Mine is wrist-slittingly harsh.
If you come out of the game and you don't want to just go and jump off a bridge,
You've done well.
Yeah.
But you will almost certainly lose. I have played the game now 4 times, and I have only got to chapter 2. And there were 3 chapters.
Yeah, okay. That's pretty telling, really, isn't it?
It is. It's hard. But it is a really, really good representation, mechanically and thematically, of the computer game. I mean, we've talked about it before. Steve has recommended or suggested a couple of improvements that could have been made to just change the mechanics, like keeping stats and stuff to reduce a bit of faff and moving counters and stuff around. But there isn't really a multiplayer mechanic.
No, my criticism is the thing that just makes it not be in the top, my top 3, is it's not a multiplayer game. It is a solo game.
Yes. And we've just undermined our argument again.
But it's a solo game that, in theory, you can play with more people, but there's no mechanics that make it into a multiplayer game. And I just feel it was a little bit of a cop-out that if they just...
There's one. There is one, and I took it out.
Yeah.
Sharing
the person holding the rule book can move the miniatures.
It's bollocks, that. It really is. But yeah, that's the way you it's now your turn to move the miniatures around. Oh, thank you very much. What a great honour it is. Just get on with it.
We've been careful. We found a way to shoehorn in multiplayer experience to what is basically a single-player game. You must abide by it.
Pretty much. But it is good, and it is pretty, and it was only 50 quid?
That Kickstarter price, though, wasn't it? What's the RRP? Do you know?
No. I think it's closer to 60.
RRP for This War of Mine is £65. That's still not bad at this time.
For the content,
but what's
in the box
in there,
is incredible price. It really was. Awakened Realms have done an absolute stunning job there. I think it's probably one of the exemplar Kickstarter projects I've backed so far.
I've just realised we don't have 10 honourable mentions. We've got 9 honourable mentions, of which 1 is mentioned twice. So the next game is the InBetween, which is basically Stranger Things, the card game.
Yes. Yeah, you really liked this one, didn't you, John?
I did really like this game. It was really good fun. I was actually torn about taking this off my top 3, but I only played it for one evening, twice, I think, with you. Maybe 3 times. It was good fun.
We played it 3 times, didn't we? Because we were worried whether there's 2 sides to it. There's a beast and the townsfolk.
That's right.
And we thought maybe the beast was overpowered. So we swapped a few times to try and work out, is it the cards or is it us that's the problem? I think we determined it was us that was the problem, didn't we?
You stunned me, Mr. Tudor.
No, we determined that you're shit at it.
What I said, kind of.
As I said, I really enjoyed that game. It has nothing to do with the fact that I won most of the time.
Problem sat between chair and table.
Not all the time, but I did win more often.
Yeah, so this is a 2-player only game where you're trying to get the townspeople to your side.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. Which is you basically flip cards over. They're either in the town or they're in upside down. Let's be honest. Let's just call it what it is in Stranger Things. And you do this by manipulating things on the board. And there's a counter that moves round, and you ideally want things to be in your dimension when the counter hits, because then you can fire off even more abilities, or you can spend your currency, is it power, energy
like that,
to basically score more points. So yeah, it is a really nicely designed game.
I really enjoyed the simplicity of it, but also the fact that it's you actually have to plan quite a long way ahead to try and work out when the counter's going to land on your stuff to activate it, or skip it, or go back instead of forwards, and you're sort of constantly balancing not losing this turn versus like a longer term strategy.
Yes. So you're doing things like, do I do something to stop John winning in a couple of turns, or do I set something in motion for a few turns' time? And you also have that thing when your opponent does something. Oh, why has John just done that? That's nonsensical. Why would he do that? Unless.
I mean, it is John. It could well just be that he's done something stupid.
To say, yes. Why has John done that? Well, why is the Earth round?
John's on random always, so it could be a plot, or he could just be an idiot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so great. It's a really fun little game. I really enjoyed it.
Want to give a quick shout out to Ethnos. I've only managed to play this once. It's a game that came out this year, which is kind of like Ticket to Ride, the area control game.
What?
It's quite hard to explain until you play it, but it's a light game. Rules wise, it's really simple. But what you're doing is you're picking up cards and then playing bands, basically war bands, and you'll have a number of regions on the board and a number of different fantasy races. So, like, you can either play all cards which are orcs, or all blue cards, which is a particular the regions on the board are color coded. So in that regard, it's like Ticket to Ride. You're collecting cards and you're playing them down. Right. And if you play enough cards, you can put one of your influence tokens into a region. And at the end of every round, you score points based on the hands of cards you've played and which areas you control on the board.
Oh, okay.
It's really simple. And I've only played it one game, 2 players so far, which is why it's an honourable mention and not further up the list, because I think this might be a really good game. But there's a lot of, again, thinking, just like we're saying with InBetween, there's a lot of thinking ahead. There's a lot of, well, why have they done that? There's a lot of, well, am I doing this to stop John from taking this territory, or am I putting something in motion to put like more tokens into another territory later on?
Does sound intriguing.
And the game varies each time because I think you play with 5 fantasy races out of a selection of 10, I think it is. Or something along those lines. So every game will be different because you'll have a different combination. Because each race has its own special ability. And some of them even add like extra little boards, adds different scoring opportunities and things like that.
Okay.
It's one I want to play with more players because I've only played with 2 so far. And I think with 4 players, it's going to really shine. But that's why we've not mentioned it in further detail.
Sure. One that, as much as I have against it, I think it's still it's very mechanically sound anyway, and it's almost the epitome of your standard Euro, is Terraforming Scotland. As it's actually known, Clans of Caledonia.
Yeah, I was going to say, that sounds familiar, and yet not.
No, it's called Clans of Caledonia, but it's hex-based. You're putting things on hexes, and it's almost like Terraforming Mars, but in Scotland, kind of. The reason it's an honourable mention is because mechanically it's a very, very good game. I've played it, 3-4 times now, and Steve played it with me as well. Laura and
2 or 3 games have we played it?
It's very easy to pick up. It flows really well, but the only reason it's kind of the difference between a good game and a great game. To me, a great game, and we've said this a few times before, that you need a link between the theme and the mechanics. And I just don't feel it has that link. It has a nice setting, the artwork's lovely, but you could completely reskin it, and it would make a jot of difference.
What was the phrase Mr. Grogan coined?
A setting.
Setting versus theme.
Yes.
Yeah, there you go.
And it does. And everyone keeps saying that, it's a game about whiskey. No, it isn't. It's no more a game about whiskey as it is a game about cheese. So, but it flows really well. It's very popular, and we did enjoy playing it, and I'd be quite happy to play it again.
Yes, I say I really enjoyed this game. I would be more than happy to play it again, especially because I think I've worked out what I did wrong in the last game.
You flooded the market with wheat, mate. That's what you did
wrong.
Well, yeah,
cheap, dirty wheat, as we said. I agree with you there. We definitely don't like this as much as a lot of other people.
No.
I think this is going to appear on a lot of people's Game of the Year list, and it's not our Game of the Year. I think you're right. It's a themeless game almost, and I'm worried that there is one strategy for this as well.
Yes. Pick a cheap area, put something down, Put lots of put your meeples down so you get lots of money, and then just buy lots of things after that. Yeah.
But then again, I think that might be just taking it to the next level. It might be just that me and you have now cottoned onto this, and the next game we play is going to be very different because we've cottoned onto that basic strategy.
You'll find out there's another strategy that then defeats that one.
Hopefully there's another layer above that, of complexity. But
a game inside a game inside a game.
But yeah, I'd like to play this again.
Yeah. Because we haven't played every clan that there is yet. Although I still think the one that makes the butter is very powerful. And every game I've played with that in it, that clan's won.
That agrees with my theory about the strategy as well.
Yes, money wins, basically.
Money wins, yeah.
Because it allows you to put more stuff on the board.
Pretty faithful to life, then.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
Yeah. So the last two games are an honourable mention we've actually already mentioned, which was Dice Forge and Century Spice Road. These games both came out this year, and I think all three of us have loved them, but I don't think they've just pipped our Game of the Year kind of category.
They're not being
really
played
good.
enough, or they've not been just not quite special enough to really pique our imagination.
I think that's the word, imagination. I think that's what Clans of Caledonia comes down to as well.
Yeah,
It gets your brain cells going, but I think
Doesn't excite you in the same way.
yeah, for us three, I think it needs to be a combination of brain cell burning and imagination.
agreed.
Which we shall lead on to the major events now. Now, we've all picked 3 games each we're going to talk about in a bit more detail. Since we just said games that pique our imagination and are mechanically good, my first pick of potential game of the year is a time-travelling worker placement game called Anachrony.
Yes.
Now, my collection of games is quite short on heavy euros.
So you've overcompensated.
So I've overcompensated. Well, yeah, it is because I like heavy theme. I like dice. I like what most people would call Ameritrash, although I am shying further and further away from the particularly trashy Ameritrash. Like, I've completely gone off Flying Frog games. But that's besides the point. Whereas Anachrony to me... there is
In
that.
your opinion.
It's not an opinion, it's science fact.
No, it's still just your opinion, Andy.
No, I'm a scientist, it's fact.
So Anachrony is a worker placement game where already straight from the start you've got complications because you've got to... Most of the worker placement spots are out in a radiation toxic infested wasteland, so you need biosuits to get out there, which means you need to choose how many biosuits you're going to power up each turn, which you need fuel for. You've then got your normal kind of heavy worker placement kind of things to consider, getting resources, getting more workers, then building things in your little base, which is safe, so it gives you more options. But the thing that adds an extra layer of headache material is the fact that you can request resources from the future, which means that in order to stop all the timey-wimey, wibbly-wobbly stuff going even more wibbly-wobbly, you need to then build a time machine, which means you need to build the time machine, then power that time machine up, and go send those materials back in time.
In a DeLorean.
Well, in an Art Deco piece of power armour, to be more precise.
Yes. You and I played it with Laura, and I really enjoyed it. I think it was brilliant. I mean, the miniatures had nothing apart from bling in terms of mechanics, but they do look fantastic. And the game mechanics are superb. I mean, this is another one by David Turksey. We played Petrichor, I think was his last one, and we were lukewarm about it, but he's definitely, as you said, knocked it out of the park with this one. I'm very jealous you bought it from Sven, because if you ever annoy me, Steve, I'm going to knock you on the head and steal it.
Well, just knock me on the head with the
Yeah.
Anachrony box, I think.
Get you to pick it up and put your back out. You'll never chase me with that.
However, I should point out, it's on the shelf at the moment on top of the Gloomhaven box. Now, I nearly put my back out taking the Anachrony box from the UK Games Expo to the car park. The Gloomhaven box is the same width and depth, but the Gloomhaven box is 3 times as deep.
Are you sure they're safe on the same shelf?
No. He's going to need structural reinforcement to help those things.
I'm a mechanical engineer. I know what I'm doing.
What's that creaking sound, Andy?
Steve's fat arse on the chair, I think.
Why, you cad and a bounder.
How appropriate, you fight like a cow.
So yes, it's the heaviest game I own at the moment, but I do not regret getting it because this does marry the theme with the mechanics. This isn't
really
a setting.
Does. Yeah,
this does
really
feel like every single mechanic is integral to the theme of what's happening.
Everything has its place and it all works. But it's stunning. I really enjoyed it.
Well, Mr. Lewis, would you like to pick a game?
I shall pick a game. I shall pick Tortuga 1667, which is pretty much at the opposite end of the spectrum from Anachrony in terms of heaviness and heft.
Ironically.
I know, I've gone for a particularly light game. Tortuga is a Kickstarter. It was released, a few months ago now, maybe September, October time. And it comes in a small little book, about a book-sized sort of thing. It's tiny. The little board is only a little rollout map, a mat of neoprene. But it is so pretty. And it was only 20 quid. So it's dead straightforward, really, really nice. And it's about pirates.
Arr!
Pirates. And it's a hidden knowledge, or hidden allegiance, I should say, team game, where you are predominantly, if there's an even number of players, there's only two factions. There's either the British or the French. And basically, the object of the game is to get as much gold to your side as possible. It's great fun. It's really good fun. There's a lot of interaction. The more players, the better, because I played it now with 4 and 6 and 7. And if there's an odd number of players, you get the Dutch player, who's basically there just to cause chaos. So it'll suit John down to the ground.
Shotgun.
Yep. But of course you don't know. And it's great. I loved it.
It's different to the Resistance, isn't it?
Hugely. It's almost unrecognisably different. I know when I wrote the review for this, you turned around and said, so it's just like Resistance then, Andy? No, it's nothing like Resistance at all. The only similarities are the fact that you're on a team and you don't know who else is on your team to start with. But that's about it. There's a lot more activity in Tortuga. There's a lot more interaction. There's a lot more sneakiness. There's a lot more active dickery, to put it in a...
As opposed to inactive dickery.
Exactly, yes. Passive and active dickery. Because you can move from boat to boat to the island Tortuga. You can play cards that will... either affect you positively or negatively affect your opposition. So you've kind of got to work together with your teammates and communicate as well. So no, it's not like Resistance, because that's a lot more clandestine. There's a lot less active interaction in Resistance, because it's all based on the vote and the number of cards, the vote cards that go out. Whereas in Tortuga, there's a lot more options in what to do in the game. There is a vote element to it, but it's a smaller part of the game. It's not like the be-all and end-all of it. But yeah, for 20 quid, it's stunning. It's really, really good.
Mr. Cage.
So speaking of games that begin with T...
These links are getting so loose.
And it's got an R in it. Anyway.
We're on planet Earth. There's a connection.
Hey, right. Job done. My first of the 3 possibilities has got to be Tsuro for me.
So this is the game you first played this year, isn't it?
First played this year, yep.
Yeah, so
really?
13 years after its release.
Yep.
Bloody hell, I thought you'd had it for ages.
No. So I first played it at the board game... Aircon, there we go. The board gaming convention whose name has just gone from my mind. Aircon, yes. How could I forget? Played it there first and bought it in the same convention. And I think, actually, I was thinking about this earlier today, I think it's probably my most played game this year.
Do you know what? I had a look on, because I record all my plays on BGG, and it's actually my second most played game this year. Now, the fact that you can play a game in about 10 minutes is one of the things, but it is a game I played. Now, bearing in mind, this game came out in 2004. This is actually quite an old game based on ours, but as you said, if you suddenly come across it and go, this is your kind of game, it is a game you can play with anyone, isn't it?
And that's the reason that it's been played so much, is because I've been on holiday with people who never play board games. I played it with my family. It's just, you can teach anyone it in about 5 minutes tops. And then you play a game, and then everyone gets it after the first game.
and you want to play again.
Yeah, and you suddenly realise there's marginally more strategy than you first thought when you played it the first time. But once you get the kind of general gist of stay away from everyone else, if you've got a choice, stuff other people up.
Yep.
But basically, it's just a game of putting down little tiles and trying to keep your stone on the board for as long as possible. And they all follow lots of little lines, and you can draw massive penises with all these little lines. So it's just, it's all about who can get the curliest penis is another sub-game.
Well, that's
the
a new
curvy
one
dong.
on me.
Well, Steve, we need to play Tsuro again.
So, another game I want to mention in a little bit of detail is Unlock, which is an escape room game. Now, there's been actually quite a few escape room games come out in the last year, actually. I think this is the year of the escape room game, because I also played Exit.
You've played a lot of them this year, haven't you?
Well, yeah, I haven't played the... there's an Escape the Room game, and you've got a different one, haven't you, Andy, called...
It is called Escape, but I can't remember which one it is.
Is it like Escape in the Box or something like that?
Something like that. It's a Victorian whodunit, basically.
Escape from the box, surely.
It wouldn't take much. It's not a big box. Did you say that the Exit game you played was shit?
No, I said the Exit game was really good.
Oh, I'm thinking of something else then.
No, the Exit game was good. John decided it was shit because you could play it once and once only.
Oh, that's right, yes.
I didn't say it was shit.
So this is the difference, right? These are the two big ones in the market, Exit and Unlock. So Exit is it is quite literally an escape room in a box, and it is a one play only. So you do have to cut up components, you have to write on components. So you get lots of little trinkets in there, and when you play it, you will never be able to play it again unless you've done some serious prep and managed to photocopy it blindfolded. So you don't get the... Because basically trying to make a copy of it so you can play it again would involve going through the deck and seeing what all the cards are and all the puzzles are.
This is why I want to employ as a secretary.
Whereas Unlock is app-based. So Exit is completely component-based, like the code you have to do is a little dial. Unlock is app-based, so you get a deck of cards, and then when you need to, you can do basically two kinds of puzzles. There's the kind of puzzle which I call the Monkey Island puzzle, where you have to put two items together.
Dial a pirate.
No, the Dial a Pirate's actually an Exit, because that's the code system. No, this is more, if you've got a key and a door, then they'll be colour-coded. So one will be a red jigsaw piece and the other one will be a blue jigsaw piece. And you add the numbers that are on those cards together and go find that card in the deck.
Right.
If you make a common mistake, you will usually find a card that says, no, don't be stupid, that's not how it works. Take a penalty, and you have to press the penalty button, which takes 3 minutes off your time, I think is what it is. It's timing you, basically. You need to try and complete it in under an hour.
Okay.
Right.
Now, this is by Space Cowboys, which is by the same company as Time Stories, and the same production qualities there. It's a very pretty game. The app is very well done. The puzzles are also well done. I would even say the puzzles are much better than the ones in Time Stories.
Yeah, because I played Time Stories and I wasn't that taken with it.
Time Stories is really, really good if you've got someone else who's really excited by it. Because you get this group kind of fever going, you're going ahead. Unlock is definitely more of a puzzle game. Time Stories is a board game, there's dice and elements and things like that. Yeah. Whereas Unlock is definitely a puzzle. You need to solve the puzzle before you can get onto the next stage. Now, sometimes this means you are staring at things and going, what? I can't work this out at all. And the app's got hints in there, so if you get stuck, it says which card you want a hint on. But I've played... Now, in America, they're sold separately, so each Unlock deck is sold as a different boxed game. In the UK, in Europe, they're sold in sets of 3. So I've played the promo game, which is like a 10-15 minute version, which we could get at the expo. And I've played the first 2 Unlock puzzles of the main box set. So it's Squeak and Sausage and...
Squeak and Sausage?
Yes, it's called
sounds like 2 Nintendo characters.
Sausage, yes. It is. That one is quite silly.
Like Lilo and Stitch. Or,
yeah, it is, and it looks like that as well. The art of it looks like that kind of Lilo and Stitch kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then the other one's like you're in a secret bunker, I think is the other one. And I haven't done the island, and they've just announced that came out at the beginning of the year, and they've just released the next 3, and I think I'm going to be buying the next 3 as well.
Cool.
Really enjoyed them so far, and the beauty of this over the Exit games is when I finished all 3 of these, I can then hand this box over to you 2, and you can play it without me having ruined any of the components.
Hooray!
Nice.
Sounds good. Excellent.
I'll pay you a third of that. I think originally I criticised them because you could only play them once, but then you pointed out that if it's a one-play thing and it's cheap enough, and it's something you can bring out at like Christmas, something along those lines, then
Yeah.
And at which point I was like, actually, yeah, okay, I can see the appeal there.
Yeah, it's not too bad. If a couple of you chip in a $5 each, it's fine, isn't it? For a day or an evening of entertainment.
Yeah.
Keep Grandma Mavis entertained for an evening while she hits the sherry. I'm going to follow John's lead here and pick a game that's not from 2017, but I have played it quite a bit. I got it for my birthday this year, so it's the first time I played it. I've had my eye on it for a while, and Alora was good enough to get them. Tzolkin with the expansion, actually, for me.
Of course.
Of course.
She's got to feed your acquisition disorder, hasn't she?
She did. She knows what she knows me well. So, yeah, you can have the expansion as well. Just be quiet. Okay. Thank you.
She knows that if she got you the game on its own, you would have been on the internet after you'd unwrapped it going, right, I'm just going to buy the expansion now for it.
Yep, totally. She did. She got them both together. It's like, look, just be quiet. Here you
It'd be
go.
worse than that. It'd be like, oh, you didn't get the expansion as well.
You're so right. But yeah, Tzolkin, which I've actually learned is a big influence for Mr. Stegmaier. So,
What a shock.
I know. It's one of the reasons I actually had my eye on it. But it also looks amazing. It's the one with the cogs. So it's the Aztec, Incan, twisty cog worker placement game. And I love it. I really, really, really love it. I've not played it with you yet, John, but Steve and I have played it now. And I know Steve wants to play it again.
I'd like to play it. It's another one of these games that I'm not sure I'm going to enjoy. I'm probably going to be overwhelmed with, but I want to get better at them.
I would put this as slightly lighter than an Anachrony.
Yes,
but not
so.
that much lighter, really.
I don't know. I think it falls kind of into the same category as Ave Roma, actually. The first time you play it, your brain just falls over and it needs a reboot. But once you've played it once, the second time you play it, it's a lot more straightforward.
Yeah, okay.
It's still not simple, and there are a lot of strategies to it. There's a lot of depth to it. And I've played it, 5-6 times now, and I'm still the results I get at the end of the game are very varied. Sometimes I do really, really well. Other times I get absolutely tanked. So I don't have a reliable approach to it, but I think I quite like that because it's quite dependent on what everyone else is doing as well. So, and it's a game style I quite like, that whilst it is a Euro, there's no dice, there's almost no luck involved at all.
No.
There's almost none at all. It's purely based on what everybody else does. And I like that about games, that it presents you as a situation that you have to adapt to, which I quite like.
Do you ever find with those sorts of games that you get to the point where one person knows enough about the strategies to be able to counteract other people's, the way they're going? Or is it so random in terms of, if you have a good strategy, you could win by 1,000 points, and it's because you've picked that strategy?
I think we are lucky enough that the people we play with have not got too advanced on that. I think if you played someone who really knows that game, we'd be absolutely trounced every single time, no matter what we do.
Yeah, I played Rich and Dan at this, at our board game night. Dan destroyed us. I mean, it was ridiculous how good he was. He didn't actually beat us by that much, but he had almost no points for most of the game. But he had something like 3 monuments, which is the way you basically score at the end of the game. There's either multipliers, or depending on certain conditions in the game, you can build buildings that give you huge numbers of points right at the end of the game. And he had about 3 of these bloody things by the end of it, because for some reason he'd managed to cotton onto one of the strategies. You can basically just bundle up shitloads of resource by doing something with the tech tree, essentially. And he just took advantage of that. And just the way the cards came out, because there are buildings that you can build that give you special abilities or enhance certain things, and that's about the only random element of the game. And he just did all of that, and at pretty much the very last turn of the game, at the end of the game, his monuments just took over, and he got something like 80 odd points, like that. And we're like, yeah. I mean, we could see he was probably going to win, but there's bugger all we could do about it.
That's Tzolkin.
Yep.
John.
I'm torn which to say next of these two of my remaining ones, but probably the game I've played most next, I would say, is probably Mansions of Madness. So we've had a few times where we've played this on my projector with a decent sound system, lights down low, candles lit, and it's a really atmospheric experience. I love it. Absolutely love it. My wife loves it.
Mm.
It's a great game.
It is good.
Ooh.
We have talked about it a lot, but it is so atmospheric and so thematic that, yes.
Yes, I mean, we have already talked about this in detail, but yeah, I think this is a really superb game, in my opinion. It is themed over mechanics slightly. So we were talking about our marriage of theme and mechanics earlier. In it is the Fantasy Flight, there's dice, there's cards, there's all kinds of random tokens, but it never feels too complicated, I think, in this. It just feels like it's just pared down to the right level of complication, I think.
Yeah. And I love a good story, and it feels like you're part of a good story every time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very much so. Yeah, that's a really good point, John. Well, the one entertaining mechanic you do get in Mansions of Madness is there's this thing called range that doesn't apply through doors, but it does mean you can shoot round corners.
Yeah, that is a bit weird. I think we've all agreed it's not without its flaws. I particularly enjoy it when a fire starts.
Oh, God.
Oh,
Because it
yes.
it just escalates, and you're like, I'll just pat this bit out here. Oh shit, it's on fire over here. And it's okay. I can leave it for a minute because I need to get on with this other thing. I'm like, oh my god, everything's on fire. I'm surrounded.
It's when you go, I'll start a fire to stop the monsters killing me.
Now the fire is killing me.
And the monsters are killing me, and the fire's killing me. Oh my god. Yeah, I like that sense of desperation with the kind of ominous feel it gives you anyway. It's good fun.
It's really good. It is.
It's weird. There's a part of me would like to have a few more adventures for it, a few more mysteries, or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah.
But I can understand that you can't write one of these things overnight. They're not simple things to put together. They're quite complex.
Yeah.
I have discovered this because there is a tool now, a third-party tool called Valkyrie, and you can write your own adventures for it. Ooh, yes.
So, Steve, you can solve that problem.
Yes, exactly.
With all the spare time I've got lying around.
Yeah,
I know, yeah. Spare time, what the hell's that? But yes, you can. I have downloaded it and I've had a quick mooch through it, and it is quite involved, but... And it's obviously not as fancy as the original app, but and it allows you to play through your adventures. Some people have made them already. I think one person's recreated one of the adventures from the first edition.
Oh, okay.
Which is quite nice. I don't know how it plays. I've not played it. But yeah, you can now create your own.
Does it replace the original app then?
Yes.
Right, okay.
It's not as fancy. I don't know to what extent you can add your own sound effects or VO or anything like that. I don't know. I've not investigated it that much. But the ability to build your own is out there, so you can do a lot of homebrew now.
Yeah, okay. That's quite cool.
Okay.
So that's my number 2.
Mansions of Madness. The last game I'd like to talk about is a game that I've only just received, really, and I've only had it a few weeks, and I've already played 4 games of this, which I think is testament itself.
That is definitely a telling sign.
And I will be honest now and say, even after 4 games, I have not scratched a fraction of the content within this 10-kilogram box of gaming. This is Gloomhaven. And I feel almost that I shouldn't be talking about this because I have played so little of the actual campaign. So what I've done so far is, because I didn't want to start the campaign proper, I played several games of just playing the random, because there's
the arcade version, basically.
Yeah, I don't know if it comes in the was in the first Kickstarter, because I know bits got added in the second Kickstarter that went in the first. But there is you can do a random dungeon, but you just draw these cards that produce random map tiles and draw a set of other cards which put random monsters in. So I did a few games of them to learn the rules, to try and get my head around it before I hit the campaign proper. And then me and Andy decided to sod it. We're going to start the campaign because we can always get people to drop in and drop out, which is a nice thing about this as well. And we played the first mission, and we ended up playing it twice. Because Andy died on the second round.
Good skills,
was
Lewis.
great.
Good skills.
Oh, yes. Bundle!
Reset and give it another go.
Cup of tea. Start again. Right, Andy, you're not a tank. You're a thief. You can't take on 3 bad guys at once. Aww.
Yes, I can. Stab, dead. Round 3.
Yeah, pretty much. That was it, yeah. Right, I'm going in and doing this. And then one of the mechanics is you draw cards that modify or can modify your attack. Plus or minus. So when you draw a minus and you don't do any damage to either of the bad guys standing in front of you, and they do a lot of damage to you, gonna have a bad time. But I really like it. I can see why everyone else likes it too, and it would seem that occasionally the masses can be right.
Yes. So if for some bizarre chance you've been living under the rock for the last 12 months, Gloomhaven is a legacy dungeon crawling game. Yeah, John's raised his hand now for us not listening.
It's not that I'm not aware of it. I just haven't had a chance to play it.
So Gloomhaven is a legacy dungeon crawling game. But I would also say it's a legacy Euro dungeon crawling game. There's no dice in it. The cards add a little bit of randomness to your attacks, but it's not as swingy as dice. You're always going to hit. The cards will just affect how much damage you do. Okay, every so often something will come along and do loads of damage or do no damage. But the other thing as well, you're going through this deck, so you know if you've had your -2s come up, you know they're not going to come up again, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So you know that later on in the game. It's Euro-y in that everything's based on card decisions. So you are basically, your plethora of decisions are open in front of you at all times. You decide, right, I'm going to play these 2 cards, which means I'm going to do this movement and this attack, or take these 2 actions. It's legacy because the idea is you will take your characters, and that's your character, and then you have to do this long-term quest. And if you can complete the quest, you retire that character and unlock a new one, which is in a sealed envelope in the box. So you start off with 6 characters out of a possible
15 of them.
15, I think it is.
Wow, that's
There's
pretty
a load
cool.
of them.
So there's a lot of characters to unlock. There's the board you build yourself, which you play on, which is map tiles, and then there's another board which you apply stickers to, which is the map of Gloomhaven and surrounding territory. And it is like a D&D campaign. You're unveiling these dungeons, one dungeon at a time, and a little sticker goes on the board so what the dungeon is. You've got to improve the prosperity of Gloomhaven, the town, because that's what unlocks the market.
So you turn Wrexham into Chester.
So Gloomhaven starts off as a shithole, and as we said at the time, Wrexham, and the idea is to get it to 16 prosperity. Chester.
It's brilliant. Now, the reason this is because Steve started reading the fluff text with a Welsh accent. So right, we're in Wales. And I have to say, I really love the theme of it. I love the feel of it. And I really like the kind of pre-adventure or pre-dungeon kind of events that can take place as well.
There's like a little draw a card, and it's like a little mini choose your own adventure just before each mission as well.
That's quite
so,
cool.
If you're at the dungeon and you want to go back to the city to buy stuff with the gold you've got to do, then you've got to do 2 wilderness encounters as you go back to the city and then back out again.
Right, okay, yeah.
So things can happen to you as you go back and forth. As I said, I've barely scratched it because to be fair, we played a couple of random dungeons and we played the first mission of a 1/4-inch thick quest book.
Wow.
So, and my understanding is, because I know someone else who's bought it as well at the same time as me, got the Kickstarter, he quickly showed me his quest map, and he's unlocked stuff in a different order, or unlocked stuff already that we haven't unlocked. So just from the first quest, he found an unlock that we didn't find.
It's interesting.
And I'm like, how did you find that? Where was that? Now,
Was that because we failed to open the chest that was in the corner?
That may have been, yeah.
Yeah.
Because I forgot.
Oh, well.
Because you have to loot before the game ends as well. So if you want to pick up treasure, you have to take an action to pick up treasure. Which I was like, we'll just leave all this cash on the ground because, of course, at the end of the dungeon, once we killed all the monsters, we can pick it all up. No, rules you have to pick it up as you play.
God damn it!
Oh,
yes.
So Andy actually came back with a couple of handfuls of gold coins, and I came back with a shiny penny
And no XP.
Was this
Yes.
was this another time that you turned over the page and discovered there was like some escalation rules?
No.
Completely different.
So, completely different. So yeah, I think
Yes.
this is going to dominate a lot of our gaming time next year.
Yes, I think it will. I really enjoyed it. I mean, I've played it once. No,
Twice.
twice.
Third time
I
the lady.
I like it a lot.
You played 2 sessions, but we played the same quest twice.
Yeah. No, I like it a lot. I think it's really, really cool.
More Gloomhaven, more RPGs.
Yeah. It is almost D&D, the board game, almost.
It is. It's the nearest I've seen so far to a Dungeons and Dragons board game.
Yeah, I agree.
it's very,
I'm
very
going
cool.
to like that.
You will like it. You will. It's great.
So, Mr. Cage, your third choice.
Third and final choice, and probably one of the games I've had the most fun playing this year. It's got to be Mechs versus Minions.
That is nice.
It's a great
An
game.
excellent choice, sir.
It's the packaging is what we hold all of the packaging against.
Yes.
It is, well presented.
And when the packaging gets you that excited about a game, that says something.
You need to get out more. That's what it says.
Well, there's probably an element of that, certainly, but the content of the game itself is great fun. I randomly played Robo Rally after being defeated at trying to set up Dice Forge. And one of the reasons that I really enjoy Mechs versus Minions is it is basically co-op Robo Rally with fewer of the flaws from the original game.
Yeah.
It's another game, a bit like Mansions of Madness, that my wife also really enjoys playing. So this is the only game I think I've got to the end of, and she's then said, "Well, let's try again."
What? Say what?
Normally it's like, "Oh, that was fun, but should we go and watch some telly, or should we go and watch a film, or go and do something else?" Whereas this one, it was like, "But we didn't win.
Stare at the wall.
We didn't win, but we should have won. What did we do wrong? We did follow the escalation rules. That's a good start, Steve." Yeah, it presents enough of a challenge, and there's a sort of cooperative element. Well, I mean, it's mostly cooperative, but there's also an element of building your own character up, so that they're going to do the right have the right opportunities to do enough different things that you're going to be able to adapt to what things are thrown at you. I just really enjoy it. It's fun, it's quirky, and no one's going to get pissed off because you stuffed them for the entire game.
No, it's being cooperative.
Yeah.
And there is so much in the box.
There is.
Mm.
You look at it and you're like, really? There's like 300 odd minions or something ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's not that many, but there are a lot. And you're like, it's just, I don't understand why you'd need them. And you play like about 2 missions and you're like, okay, I get it.
I know why.
Really?
It's like the little experience thing when I think you kill so many minions and you go up another level.
Yeah.
And the first couple of games, like, oh god, it's gonna take hours to go up to the top level. And then the second game you play, it's like, wow, I'm just tearing through minions now.
Just stomping on the left, right, and centre, flame throwing those ones over there.
It is good. No, I enjoyed it. I've only played it once, but I did enjoy it. It was fun.
Mm.
And the main sort of the characters that you play, they're really big miniatures.
Yeah, they're quite
Huge
big.
things.
I like the fact as well that although it's sort of a legacy game in the sense that you're unlocking new stuff as you go along, it's every bit as replayable. Even the first mission or whatever, it's still just as playable knowing what's going to happen.
Yes.
There's enough randomness in what happens that you can still have a completely different game each time, even on the earlier missions. I think that's great.
Really good game. And I'm kind of sorry I haven't bought it, but you've got it, Steve's got it, so I don't need it. And I have to admit, it's probably not the sort of game I'd play that often.
Who are you and what have you done with Andy?
No. Thing is, it is the sort of it's there's a lot of bling, and I do like a bit of bling.
No, you're right though.
I probably you get it direct from Riot Games as well, don't you? So it's not a Kickstarter; it's just you buy it and that's
you
it.
You just buy it, yeah.
Join us.
I actually agree with you. You probably don't need it because I need to play a bit more of that. Actually, I haven't played it much since. I haven't played it much this year. I played it a couple of times at the beginning of the year, and I've progressed. I don't think I've played like past mission 4 yet. I haven't managed to flip the tiles over to the lava side yet. I know that.
Don't step on the lava.
But yeah, what I'm really surprised at is that Riot Games haven't announced or done anything else yet.
Really?
Yeah,
no expansions.
No expansions. Now, this kind of did come out of the blue because they're a video game company. You know, they're known for League of Legends. Based on the success of this game, I mean, you do you know offhand what number yours is, John? Because I know they're individually numbered.
No.
The early part of the second wave, and it's on something like version 10,000 or something like that, which is a ridiculous number of copies. But yeah, I'm surprised that they haven't, as a company, haven't kind of gone with the success they've had with this and made some more games, to be fair. Or maybe they are. Maybe this was just the entire development team was working on this right to the end, and the entire development team have now started working on something else. So in another 6 to 8 months, year maybe, we'll get another game from Riot Games.
Do you know when it'll be?
Go on.
It'll be less than a month after I buy it.
No, that's when they do the second edition.
Yeah, that's it.
Exactly, yes. God damn Louter Pellet releasing version 2 of Eclipse.
Well, we don't know what version 2 of Eclipse is going to be yet, do we?
True, we don't.
We don't. So
hopefully it'll be shit and it'll justify my buying of all of the expansions.
No,
I can't imagine it will be, but
my gut feeling is it's going to be a tweak to the first edition. And I think if they're sensible, they'll do a upgrade pack.
Whilst on the subject of legacy games, there is the big one. Not physically, obviously, because Gloomhaven, I think, will keep that trophy for quite some time.
I've got to admit, I was in a shop yesterday. I was in Big Orbit Games in Evesham, and they had they don't stock many games in there at the moment, but they had an in-shrink copy of Twilight Imperium 3. Okay. RRP, no, Twilight Imperium 4, sorry. RRP, so it's £135.
Yar.
I picked up the box and went, a bit small, isn't it?
It does say something, doesn't it?
It does, yeah.
But anyway, back on point. Yes, well, I've only had this 2 weeks, give or take, but I have been looking forward to it for about a year, and that is Mr. Stegmaier's new one, Charterstone.
Nice.
We couldn't get through 2017 without me drooling just a little bit about Mr. S, because I am a bit of a fan, as we know.
A bit. That's all you've done all year.
But with good reason. He hasn't released a bad game yet. And I have played Charterstone now once. Played the first game. I was going to start the second game, but we decided to have dinner instead.
Foolish.
But
eating is cheating.
Seriously.
Yep.
It is so nice. Oh my God, it's so nice. It is a worker placement, obviously. Slight twist again. You're basically building a village. The idea is the king of the land has kind of sent you off onto into the middle of nowhere, and you are establishing a village. So basically, there's a game of up to 6 players, and each player controls one of these little areas, but they're all communal. But at the end of the legacy, which is made up of 12 games...
Communal in the sense that they're shared, or communal in the sense that you're fighting over them?
They're shared. Well, they're shared in the sense that anyone can use them. So you can put your worker on one of the facilities that you build.
Right.
But at the end of the game, at the end of the legacy, you score victory points. So basically, there's victory points within each game, and the winner of each game, you get stars on your little.
Of course, it's stars. It's Stegmaier.
Of course, it is always stars. And each little area has blobs that you can put these sort of buildings on, and they come on stickers on cards. I can't say too much because I don't want to ruin it for people, although I've only played one game, so I'm going to ruin very much. And you build the village up that way, so you can customize where you put these things. And if you unlock a building, you can basically buy it from a market, essentially, and you keep it in your sort of personal stash. So only you can open it. Now, there's mechanics that only allow you to take a certain amount of stuff from one game to the next in your personal little box. So you develop a character as you go through the game. and you can upgrade that character by winning or scoring victory points. So the more victory points you score at the end of a game means the more you can upgrade your character. So when you get to a certain point, you can essentially upgrade a stat for them. So they get like an extra free thing the next time you play the game, and so on and so forth. And you can unlock these buildings, which allow to do more stuff. But if you put a building in your area, at the end of the campaign, you'll score the victory points for that building. And the bigger the building, the more points you'll score.
So the campaign being after the 12 games?
Yes.
So you're playing a long con, basically.
Jeez, okay. Yeah.
Pretty much, yeah. Yeah. But it's really simple to play so far. The artwork is lovely. The components are lovely, what I've unlocked so far. There's this massive index box of cards, lots of which have stickers on, and you modify the rulebook as you go along as well.
Yeah,
So it's a little bit like Panda Legacy, where you get a card, you peel off the sticker, and you put it in the rulebook.
Mm.
It's almost like that. It's like a sticker book of stuff. So you can unlock different rules at different times. So everyone's game will be different. And you unlock different components by opening crates. So each building might have a crate on it, and you can put the building down as one thing, but then you do another action which allows you to unlock its crate, which might unlock further game components, or might not, or different stickers, or different rules, or different personalities, and different assistants. It's awesome.
So it sounds like there's a lot of different ways it could end up being played. Could you go back to the start and do it a different way a second time? Or is it you've ripped up the cards, one shot, that's it?
You don't rip them up, but you take stickers off and you put them on the board, so it's basically permanent. However, the game is the board is double-sided.
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly the same on both sides, but you can buy a recharge pack for it, which I have done.
I heard something about the Secret Cabal talking about the recharge pack.
So essentially, the recharge pack will contain... I haven't opened it much. I've just opened it and gone, okay, there's stuff in there, and closed it again because I don't want to ruin any future stuff.
Yeah.
Because it'll just, ruin the game. But essentially, it contains, all of the cards that you change, a new rule book, so anything you put stickers onto, all that sort of jazz. So you can use the second side of the board to play a second game. I assume once you've played it twice, you'll have to buy a new copy of the game because you'll need the board.
Yeah, so you can play it twice.
Yes, that's what
you
mean.
You can play it completely from scratch twice. Now, the story that Jamie said as well when he was promoting this game a few months back was when you come to the end of it, like Pandemic Legacy, when you come to the end of it, it's supposed to be like the end of the game. I've heard that when you come to the end of Charterstone, you can still carry on playing the game. You just don't unlock more stuff.
Correct.
So in theory, what you should end up with is a worker placement game that is completely unique to you and your players.
That is correct, yes.
And I'm fascinated to know how good that game is going to be on its own. Is it going to be a novelty? Oh, we'll play this once and, oh, look, this is the game we made. Or are you going to want to go back and play it with that history?
Mm.
I'm intrigued whether it's going to be a novelty or whether it's going to work. But as a novelty, it sounds fascinating.
Be interesting to see how it all turns out. Like if you looked at 1,000 different players or groups of players, how it all differently turned out. That would be really interesting.
Yeah, I'm really looking forward to the rest of it. But so far, first impressions are really good. Really enjoyed it. It took a while to get used to it to start with and just read through everything and make sure everything was set up right, just so we didn't either ruin it or get it in the wrong order. But once you basically open the game and play it like you're dumb. Just literally just follow the instructions. Okay, read this card, right, go to the next card. Read this card, go to the next card. Don't try and be clever. Don't start investigating stuff and asking too many questions, because it does explain stuff as you go through. There are a few things that it says, oh yeah, just ignore this for now. That'll be unlocked later.
Don't you worry your pretty little head.
Indeed. Clever girl. I love it. I think it's really good. And again, it's by Jamie. It's going to be good, and it is. He's obviously thought about it. It's a really nice product. It's just beautiful.
So that's the last 3 games we've mentioned have been kind of legacy games.
Yes.
So Mechs vs Minions is the least legacy of them because you can reset it easily, but it is a game in which you unlock more stuff and more rules, more complications.
Yeah.
Gloomhaven is very legacy because you unlock new characters as you play through games and unlock dungeons, and then Charterstone is is built from the ground up as a legacy game. Each game, in theory, should end up being completely different. So I think the main bullet point from this discussion seems to be we like legacy games.
We do indeed, which is kind of ironic because we still haven't finished Pandemic Legacy.
Yes.
Maybe the name of that game is significant. That whole legacy particular bit is that it will be our legacy.
I think it should be called Pandemic Ordeal. And this is one of the reasons we haven't mentioned Pandemic Legacy Season 2. Because we haven't bought it because we haven't played the first one yet.
Where are we? September, are we on?
Something like that.
Yeah,
we stalled.
Yeah. I've heard some mixed reviews about Season 2 as well. So
okay.
Yeah, there's part of it that still wants to play it. But no one is raving about it as much as they were Season 1.
Okay, interesting.
But I still want to play it, of course. I want to play all the games.
All of them, and we have no time. I've got 2 weeks off over Christmas. Woohoo!
I like every single game.
Over Christmas where you have to do family things.
Screw that.
Play board games, you mean?
Yes. So, the ultimate question.
No, I don't think we can answer the ultimate question.
We could put some candidates forward.
42.
We can put some candidates. So, of course, this time last year, we said our game of the year was Mansions of Madness. And I think 12 months later, although there's a couple of games from 2016 we didn't play, which are big, like Terraforming Mars is the big one, which we didn't play.
I have played that now, though.
You've played one game of that, haven't you? Well,
it was all right.
That's the big one everyone says, but I would still say I think we all agree that Mansions of Madness is probably still our favourite game of 2016. Mm-hmm. So we're still on the money for what we said. Now, I don't think I'm confident enough to pick a game of the year for 2017 yet. But I'm willing to put a couple of candidates in. And so my candidate is definitely Gloomhaven at this point.
Yeah.
Yes. I would agree with that.
From what you guys have said, I would probably agree. But I haven't played it yet myself.
I'm also going to put Charterstone forward.
So at the moment, it's a tie between Gloomhaven and Charterstone.
But I played Gloomhaven a little more. And it has it's really good. It's a great rule set. It's very thematic, very engaging. But there's something about Charterstone that's just captured my imagination. It's very whimsical. That's a good word for you.
Your imagination is certainly quite whimsical. That is true.
Yes, it is, and quite dark. But yes, I'm going to throw Charterstone in there just because I have fallen in love with it. I really have. I
think then it's going to be a case of watch this space. I think one of you dear listeners needs to remind us in a few months and asking the questions, what's our game of the year 2017?
Yeah, we can't leave them with blue balls now, can we?
I'm going to go out on a limb and say...
gloom balls.
Not when I've got a mouthful of beer.
Breathe, Andy, breathe.
Oh, Jesus. Oh.
Air in through the nose.
Swat. Oh.
I don't think it was going to be that funny.
Oh. Murder me.
To describe to the listeners home what has just happened, Andy has just spat beer all over his living room, microphone, laptop, everything.
You know that pop filter? That's not like as in fizzy pop. That's supposed to be like to stop you popping.
Beer filter. No, you bastard.
Our next episode will be a 2018 preview. And I've already started looking at some of the games coming out next year that we actually know are coming out. I don't mean things that are coming to Kickstarter. And it's looking quite interesting. So yes, next episode we'll be looking forward to 2018. If you have any questions for the episode, you can contact us on Twitter at PolyhedronC.
At Sonic H.
At John_Cage.
You can also ask questions on our Board Game Geek Guild, which you can link to from www.polyhedroncollider.com. I was going to say the number of the guild, but I can't. It's not on my screen, so I can't remember it. And you can also ask us on Facebook. We are on Facebook/Polyhedron Collider.
Nice.
So Merry Christmas, everyone, and a Happy New Year, and we'll see you again soon.
Indeed we will. Bye.
Festive season outings.
What?
What are you on about? This is the end of the podcast. We're out. Drop the mic.
Don't drop that mic, it's expensive.
Yeah, good point, actually. It's hard with a shot magnet as well. I just want to let go.
I think we should probably end it there.